What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the GSL. I was gone the previous week. I missed you guys. I didn't get to catch the show while I was over in Los Angeles. Special thanks to Gemini for subbing in for me.
He did a great job. That was a lot of fun.
You guys sounded excellent. And an exciting group we've got today. No Zergs. We're going to start this off with 2 TVPs.
Yeah, a lot of TVP. I think if you guys tuned in last week, you saw exactly how long the other matchups can go. But TVP, generally a quick one. I don't think we're going to have a 6-hour day like we did.
Man, I picked the right day to be gone, apparently, with all the tech delays we had.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy, actually. We got to like the final match, and I turned around, I looked at the audience, and there was like nobody left.
Out.
Everybody was going home, trying to catch the last train.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Every once in a while we have that. I feel like out of all the places I've casted at, this studio, this production team has by far the least number of delays, but every once in a while something goes wrong, right?
Yeah, so group here, GuMiho, Nightmare, ByuN, and Creator. GuMiho and ByuN, the favorites to get out of this one, and not just because they play Terran, but also because they're really good gamers. GuMiho, he's riding a ton of top 4s, came really close to winning another GSL last year as well. And ByuN, he's been kind of feasting in TVP. So I think Nightmare and Creator, the 2 Protosses in this group, really have their work cut out for them if they want to advance.
And of course, bringing up Creator, this is a guy, my heart goes out to him. He's been with us since the very, very early days of GSL. He's worked so hard, but has not yet won a tournament. He did get to the finals. Was that 2 years ago, I guess? He was in the finals?
Yeah, about 2 or 3 years ago, yeah.
You know, we'll see how he performs here today, but it's going to be tough. You know, GSL has been getting a little bit smaller. It's trimmed down quite a bit. There's not as many GSLs as there were in years past, which means there's not as many opportunities for these players to try to make it all the way.
If you guys want to come down, if you're in Korea or you're traveling to Korea, you want to catch it live, on-site viewing guide is below. Tickets go on sale 5:30 p.m. on Friday. And for the round of 16, the round of 8, they usually do not sell out. You can generally get a ticket.
It's pretty light. I would still buy it in advance if you could.
Yeah.
Those links, everything there should work in English. If you end up on a web page where it's not, right-click and just do translate to English if you're on Chrome. If that happens. Every once in a while someone comes to me and says, I can't get this site, it's not in English, and everybody else tells me it's in English. So if that happens, try that instead. Obviously, we are viewer-supported now. Your support is appreciated, guys. This is kind of the general direction things are going in now, community outreach. So we appreciate it. Do you come to our finals? Is the finals listed there? I don't have the venue on there, right?
I think so, no. Okay. But I'm quite sure it's going to be here in the same studio at Samsung Station. I would be surprised.
Well,
if we
every once in a while we mix it up. Sometimes they move this stuff around in the studios, so we'll see.
Oh, hey, look at this. This is earlier than we usually get to see the round of 8 groups. Usually there's a little bit of a mystery heading into the round of 8, but we can already see Maru and Classic going to be there in Group A. They'll be joined from the first place player in Group C, the second place player in Group D, and in Group B about the same, Stats and Shin. And I kind of like that already. It's pretty much perfect balance. 2 Protoss, 1 Terran, 1 Zerg.
I like that even though we had Group C happen, we don't know who's in those spots, apparently.
Yeah. No, Group C's today.
What am I saying? I'm so crazy. I'm so out of it.
You're thrown off
I'm still jet-lagged from my trip, to be honest with you.
I'm the same way.
It's going to be low battery tasteless for this show.
Anytime I miss, like, a day of an event, I come back and I'm like, wait, let me get my bearings again.
But, guys, we're on every Thursday, by the way. I know originally GSL was a 2-day-a-week show. I'm so glad we moved it to this format. It felt a little bit too rushed. It felt like we were kind of hurled into the end part of the tournament too quickly. But yeah.
저도 그거 해보고 싶거든요. 저랑 혹시 같은 조 되고 싶으신 분?
고병재 선수랑 같은 팀 되고 싶으신 분 계신가요? 김도호 선수?
저번 시즌에 4강에서 졌기 때문에 좀 복수를 하고 싶은 마음이 커가지고
저는 테란이랑 하고 싶어가지고
하고 싶은 사람이 2명인데 근데 우기가 정말로 하고 싶으면 뭐 저도 좋죠.
김도호 선수의 복수.
아 그거는 나중에 괜찮습니다. 사양할게요 제가.
뭐 다음에 8강 가서 복수하도록 하겠습니다.
뽑아주셔서 감사하고 뽑아주신 거랑 별개로 저한테 좋은 조로 만들겠습니다. 저는. 혹시 테란 분 중에 보시고 싶으신 분 있으신지? 재선 형만. 변님은 왜 손 안 드셨죠? 먹고 싶게.
저는 제가 막 손들어서 가는 것보다 그냥 제 위치를 한번 보고 싶어요. 그게 좀 궁금해가지고.
아 진짜.
아니면 혹시 다른 종족에서 모시고 싶으신 분 있나요?
나 뽑아줘.
난리다 난리.
경재 형 저희 매우 얕보이고 있는데요?
오고 싶어하는 사람 많지. 소신 있게 테란 뽑아야 누가.
같이 올라가자.
손 안 들었던 견님 뽑겠습니다.
아 위치 바로 나와버렸죠?
네. 가고 싶었던 보긴 했어요. 내 위치가 여기까지 떨어졌구나. 그런 거죠.
아 그리고 저번 때 고병재 이기고 또 그렇게 세레머니 하신 건가요?
아 그건 진짜 이장이 그려서 병재형한테 진짜 죄송하다는 말씀.
아 거짓말하지 마 진짜. 하나도 안 미안하면서.
혹시 짱현우한테 어떻게 생각하냐고 좀 물어보고 싶네요. 이조.
현우 형 조에 가고 싶어요. 같이 연습도 많이 하기 때문에 같이 열심히 해서 올라가면 좋지 않을까.
김준호 선수는 근데 왜 어떤 이유가 있나요?
상대 안 가리긴 하는데 준호 형은 좀 가리고 싶네요. 장현우가 저희 조를 원하지 않았으면 안 뽑았을 것 같아요. 준호 형을 뽑았을 것 같은데
뭐 저는 예정된 결과라고 생각하고요. 준호가 D조 가는 거는 어쩔 수 없지 않나. 현우, 준호 뽑으면 패자조에서 시작하겠다는 건데 좋은 선택이 아니에요.
저말 들으니까 준호 형 뽑고 싶은데요?
아니 너가 쏘내지 뭐. 나 상관없어.
저는 준호 형 안 뽑고 짱클리 뽑겠습니다. 장현우 뽑겠습니다.
일단 뽑아줘서 고맙고 어차피 뽑았을 거였지만 그래도 고맙고 꼭 8강이 목표인데 꼭 8강 가보고 싶어요.
All right, we're ready to get this group going here. We do have the possibility of this being like a TVP deep dive, where we have 5 TVPs in a row. Honestly, those days are kind of fun.
Yeah.
You really get to explore all the avenues of the matchup, all the different possibilities. But if not, it's going to be TVPs with some mirror matchups mixed in.
Yeah, it should be a relatively quick day. TVP, often with a player lineup like this one, could be pretty explosive. I know ByuN is one of those gamers that really likes to end the game quickly. Does a lot of two-basing in his TVPs. And GuMiho, kind of a wild card, man. He can really throw anything at you. He can play macro, he can play greedy, or he can just switch on a dime and do some really zany all-ins. So I'm not quite sure what to expect from any of these series, except the unexpected, because I don't think these are going to be like your most standard TVPs. But those are really fun matches regardless. And oftentimes when players as creative as GuMiho and ByuN showcase their playstyles in a matchup like this one, if we just get to see it game after game after game, we can really see the full repertoire of the build orders these guys have stored in the bank, especially if it goes, as you said, into a match where we have like 4 or 5 TVPs today.
It's going to be interesting. One thing about this matchup is that, I guess since there's no Zerg, it does seem to come to a conclusion a little bit more quickly. It seems like either the Terran or the Protoss is usually able to kill each other off here, where it doesn't turn into this kind of split map, you know, each side reaching to the corners to try to continue to expand and grow. It's a little bit more action-packed. Games can end very, very quickly if you mismanage anything.
I think Nightmare here may be a little bit of an underdog coming into this group, and I've been high on Nightmare for a while. I feel like he's really poised to have a breakout year, and it might be this year coming through. He's been consistently a top 16 GSL guy, just hasn't been able to break into the top 8. But
Yeah.
this is about as tough a group as it comes for a player like Nightmare, because, yeah, you only have these 2 Terrans to prepare for in 1 PvP, but those 2 Terrans are like Swiss Army knives. They can truly do anything.
Yeah, definitely not easy opponents to prep for. You know, Nightmare always a player who's been overshadowed by the other more dominant players here in Korea. This could be a repeat of that here tonight, with this group being extremely difficult. We're going to start this out on Site Delta. GuMiho versus Nightmare in this best of 3, starting now.
All right, the top left, spawning is the blue Terran. We have GuMiho.
That's right. We don't do the intros.
Yeah. The bottom
is-
right, the red Protoss Nightmare. It's so hard to get the timing on
know.
these things right, because even the observing is not.
I'm so used to waiting. I was just going to sit here and be like, production messed up. All right, well.
Yeah.
That's so funny. So we've got a probe immediately coming across the map here. GuMiho is a player that nobody really plays like GuMiho in Korea, outside Korea, which makes him probably the most annoying Terran to prep against. I guess, you know, the other most annoying would be Maru just because he's so good. Nobody can play at his ability out here. But, yeah, the thing with GuMiho is, you know, you have to get someone who can emulate his play style. And he not only has, like, a very different approach, he's got a big, wide range of different approaches to the game. You know, he loves to do a lot of stuff with Cyclones or weird mech stuff in certain matchups depending. But he's a tricky player. And it's interesting. He's been around since the very, very beginning of StarCraft 2, but has always kind of played his own approach, which is interesting. A lot of the time, you know, one or two Terrans come out on top, and that really makes everybody change their behaviors. They kind of copy it. But with GuMiho, not the case at all.
Yeah, in fact, I think he qualified for one of his first GSL seasons playing random,
Yeah,
if
that's
I'm
right.
not mistaken.
I think it was season 2 or 1. That goes far back enough that it kind of becomes a big soup in my brain. But
he's always kind of carried a little bit of that flair with him too. You can tell that he kind of plays Terran like a random player would play Terran in terms of his approach. But Nightmare and GuMiho, I've heard that they do like to practice a lot together. So Nightmare maybe has a little bit of an advantage in that regard, where he's not going to be too caught off. And I think we're going to see a lot of this kind of early high scouting approach, not just from Nightmare, but also from Creator today. As you pointed out, Tasteless, at the start of this match, Nightmare basically immediately sent a probe cross-map to get into GuMiho's base, see if there's a proxy coming, see if it's going to be a fast CC, if it's going to be a 2-gas opening, because these Terran players are so unpredictable. And so I would be surprised if we saw any of the Protoss players today try and go for more of a slow approach with passive scouting. I think we're more likely to see these early probe move outs, these early adepts to shade in and just double check, you know, here's your barracks. What add-ons do you have? What are you making?
Yeah, definitely a more engaged way of playing the game. You know what's funny about this? This actually looks like if ByuN was playing. Like if you covered up the IDs and told me this was one of the games I'd cast today, I'd say, oh, this is ByuN, because I've seen ByuN do exactly this. It's a really straightforward push that comes out. It can be a bit of an honesty check. It's not the hardest thing in the world for the Protoss to defend at the second base, but if you try to take a third base really quickly, you can definitely get toppled.
Yeah, 3 barracks like this early on is a very scary build to go against. It's one of those builds that either works incredibly well and basically ends the game, or
you look like
flounders,
a fool.
you look like a fool, and the game's basically out of your grasp. There's not that many games, maybe like 10% of the 3-rack schemes that we see where it actually does somehow even up. Because as Terran, you're delaying your upgrades with this one. He doesn't have an engineering bay yet. There's no factory, there's no starport. He's really hinging a lot on just getting this damage done. Even until this point, only on 1 gas. It's going to be really marine heavy.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to come out. Obviously, the Observer is not going to do the Protoss any favors, although it might be able to sound the alarms a little bit earlier here. But yeah, this is going to come right across the map. It's going to basically get in here as the Marines are leaving the natural here. He's going to see Stim and Combat Shields. He's going to finish up. We've got a factory coming a little bit later on. Protoss has to brace for impact. There are 3 Stalkers in this game. There are 2 Observers out. Now the Colossus is going to start. You can chrono boost out that Colossus pretty quickly. 1 Colossus, it's all going to come down to positioning and control.
Oh, and Nightmare's second Observer is a little bit far forward. You see him throwing down another pylon, another shield battery here in the front, warping in sentries to try and block off this natural ramp, even adding in another gateway. He really wants to slow this push because he knows that the Colossus is basically the answer here. And it's all going to come down to the splash damage connecting on those Marines. And with the second sentry warping in, this might be GuMiho's time to strike, and yes it is. Stims forward, immediately gets the first battery, but with the sentries here, he can't fully commit, and it might seem like GuMiho was able to back off quite effectively there, only losing a couple of Marines, but the push has basically already been thwarted. Those stims are a lot of damage. And the medevacs are maybe a minute and 30 seconds out from now, as that starport's only just now beginning. And for GuMiho, this is not the damage he was looking for. His third base is only just now beginning. His +1 is maybe 20% done. Just now starting Marauder production. I mean, he's basically pure Marine against someone that's soon going to have 2 Colossi with Thermal Lance. And Nightmare knows that he has GuMiho up against the ropes. He's not taking a third Nexus. He's throwing down 4 more gateways. He's building a Twilight Council. He wants to get damage done right now.
Okay, this is a big catch because this basically telegraphs that this is going to be a 2-base timing counter push here. He takes out the pylon, so there's no easy warp in. I guess Protoss would probably have to rely on a warp prism here if he wanted to try to reinforce this. Medevacs are, the first 2 actually, are just about to come out. This is going to be tough. The command center just south of this position is still not finished, but I don't know if it's going to be a target just yet here. And so this push is going to start.
Yeah, I think for Nightmare, you just want to start getting some ship damage on these medevacs, or on these Marines, excuse me. Even picking up a couple Marauders there, really nice. Bit of a small hiccup there in the micro for GuMiho, but any damage that Nightmare can get on these Marines is pure value, because those medevacs, if they run out of energy, it's basically over here for GuMiho when the big fight commences, because he already has to start Viking production. These 2 medevacs are all he's going to have for the next couple of minutes, but there is a siege tank coming out. This will mitigate a little bit of the splash damage coming in from the Colossi, but Nightmare just barely in range. I almost feel like this is the pre-patch like bug Colossus with the extra 1 range there, able to chip away at that bunker.
I can't believe this command center's gone undetected. He's actually now going to, well, hold on a second. He's going to keep trying to push forward right now. This tank is the one saving grace. This bunker kind of towing the line for the time being. These Stalkers are just out of vision. This is crazy to me. The third Nexus is going to finish up here. It seems like Nightmare's hell-bent on trying to end this game. This could end up backfiring.
Yeah, I think it might. Those 2 medevacs are unloading, and this third Nexus is probably going to go down unless there's a recall coming in immediately, and here it comes. These Marines going to trade out for a couple of probes. Going to go into the natural expansion. Was a little bit slow there on the pickup, so these medevacs are going to take a ton of damage. Luckily for Nightmare, he has that second shield battery from earlier in the game, so he is able to overcharge and keep these Stalkers alive. And I mean, I thought that drop harassment was going to go better for GuMiho because Nightmare was cross-map. Really, all he's doing right now is buying time back at home. He didn't get very many probe kills, just 2 right now. I'm not sure if that counts the first couple of probe kills that he got there at the third base, which I think he got a couple. But, you know, when things are all said and done, it's still only 2 medevacs. The third one is now coming in.
You know, it's funny. I feel like this is one of these games where, like, it's pretty clear the mistakes that Nightmare has made. Like the fact that he didn't just confirm that there's a third base here.
Yeah.
I think he could have gotten some real value. I mean, he would have been at least in a still favored position even after the push failed. But GuMiho is still not in a bad spot at all.
Oh, he still doesn't know.
Yeah,
I was certain that at some point there was going to be some confirmation.
I'm in the same spot as you. I thought maybe on the way out he saw it, but that is really kind of scary because this means that Nightmare's not even clear on what kind of game he's in right now.
He's going to come in now and see there's already a supply depot wall and siege tanks entrenched. And I mean, for Nightmare, maybe there was a small window where after he deflects that double medevac drop back at home, he could move again cross map and try and get some more damage done. But GuMiho, that medevac drop, yeah, it didn't get much damage, but the time actually did work. That time invested now into siege tank production and continuing his upgrades and getting more starport units out. Nightmare's window is closed, and now GuMiho with this third base economy, 71 SCVs to what, 65 probes? It's actually looking really good for the Terran player now.
Yeah, this is becoming a pretty crazy PvT now, as we've got the 4th base coming down here for Nightmare. GuMiho's continuing to power up. I think he's going to have a push coming in here shortly. With the disruptors out, though, that's going to be a really powerful tool to basically dismantle these pushes. It's going to be a much tougher for GuMiho to set up any kind of foothold where he can launch attacks from as long as those disruptors can get the shots connected.
First, nice control there, able to pick up a couple of units with the Blink Stalkers. Charge almost complete. Surprisingly, already +2 catching up here with GuMiho, so upgrade's gonna be almost even. GuMiho just has that armor upgrade advantage for now. And Nightmare back at home, he's taken that 4th Nexus. He's continuing double robo production. I don't mind his position too much, but I think it's really gonna come down to how far GuMiho is going to be able to come forward with these siege tanks before Nightmare spots him in the middle of the map, because if GuMiho can get in between these bases or even just siege up,
oh, he might just be able to
Nightmare
jump
has
on
no
the third.
idea. Yeah, this is a disaster. He has no vision, basically.
This is why you want to have something on the map spotting, because this is where you lose a base in the blink of an eye. You know, the Terran army is a little bit quicker than the Protoss' army. And so he's going to get in the spot. He just wipes this.
Yeah.
And look, there's another base at 6 o'clock that's being taken. You got to be careful here as well. You could always end up just picking up and trying to drop somewhere else here.
I think with the siege tanks, you want to just kind of keep your army together, but Nightmare again pulling back. I'm not sure why he's rotating back to the third, because these siege tanks are just going to creep even closer to the natural expansion. And here on Site Delta, these choke points are very tough to attack into unless you have the time to set up a really big spread.
So now he can start to destroy the second base. It's going to take a long time because there's only 3 Marauders over here, but this is basically going to bait out an attack here from Nightmare. And if Nightmare doesn't attack in correctly, he's going to lose this game.
Yeah, this is disastrous. Those siege tanks are so perfectly positioned on the high ground, and now Nightmare coming in with the flank, but there's a lot of bio here to absorb some of these zealots coming in. Oh, the Stalkers getting focus fire down. The Disruptors, even some of them going down there to the siege tanks. Now they will get cleaned up, but this trade is not cost efficient enough for Nightmare. I would be surprised if he didn't just tap out right now, because GuMiho has basically broken him with a sledgehammer push onto the third and then into the natural expansion. Nightmare is going to survive, but I mean, look at the supplies right now, 153 to 83.
Yeah, the Gumi God strikes again here. Such a great attack, and the complexity of the Protoss army has been greatly reduced here. The drop is going to continue now into the main. Terran can pretty easily just take a fourth, and it looks like even a fifth. There's a second command center being built here. I think it's somewhere in the main. But yeah, I mean, how could you stop a follow-up push at this point in time?
It's like we're watching one of those nature documentaries where the lion like attacks the gazelle. The gazelle barely escapes, but it's limping. You know it's not going to survive out there in Savannah. That is Nightmare right now, man.
Right.
His days are numbered. There is no path forward.
And then the lion stims and goes in for another kill. He comes out of the medevacs.
Yeah, I don't know, Tasteless. I think his next
the
push
gazelle's complaining about lion drops and how it's not fair.
I'd like to see those patch notes.
No, this is rough. Nice dodge there on the disruptor shot. I think the only thing that could save this game would be maybe 2 or 3 really good disruptor shots. He's going to go for a dive. This could actually be an overextension here. There is a disruptor just south of the screenshot.
It's already shot, though. There's just no DPS left in this army.
Oh, no. He just walks the disruptor right into that.
All right. I mean, you need like 10 more shots like that to maybe get something close to an even game.
Yeah,
I feel for Nightmare too, because going back to the early game, I really liked the response that he went for there against GuMiho, because GuMiho did commit to basically a pure Marine composition. His starport units were so delayed. Nightmare pulling the trigger, going for a Colossus push with natural expansion. On paper, it makes a lot of sense. It seemed like there was going to be potential for him to do a lot of damage or have a killing blow potentially, but GuMiho just able to buy just enough time, and then Nightmare missing that third base. He's going to continue to fight on.
Yeah, I got to respect it. I mean, you know, you might as well give it your all here.
I suppose GuMiho right now is sitting with not very much supply in terms of starport. I mean, maybe we called this one a little bit too early, but it really does feel like Nightmare is up against the ropes. He does now have this 4th command center up in the bottom left. He's trying to stabilize here on the robo units, and maybe there is a path forward, but I'm just looking at this game, and I mean, the upgrades 3-2 right now in favor of GuMiho. He already has Ghost production up. It's really just the starport units that are lacking, but now with double starport production in queue, he's getting Liberator range. That's going to be in the cards very soon. I'm not sure Nightmare has the economy to both support robo production and get the stalkers on the field that he needs to actually deal with this, because 10, if that starport unit count gets high enough, is not going to be enough to deal with it. But I mean, he is fighting back. I'm honestly surprised.
Well, let's watch this next attack, because there's 2 locations he can hit, and he's going to bring these Liberators out here to try to draw the Protoss into a worse position. And so this is going to be where we're going to see him pulling on 2 different ends and trying to find the weak point. It's tricky here for Protoss. I mean, a lot of their abilities have to be very actively managed. He's also making sure that no Nexus is going to be at that 3 o'clock spot.
Yeah, Nightmare right now is basically on a 3-base economy with the main and the natural basically completely mined out. You can see that right there at the bottom of the screen. The gas income double here for GuMiho.
This is so funny. We're going to watch this Phoenix lose this fight. It's like, oh, wait a minute. I guess, you know these two units we never see interact? Well, now you know which one wins, everybody.
This is one of those spots, I think, though, that with Stalkers, you cannot actually thwart.
Yeah.
You cannot thwart the Liberators. You need a Void Ray to actually clean that up. So very good foresight there from Nightmare, to get that starport up and running. And
we've got nukes coming in here, too.
Yeah, GuMiho's going to attack in again. This Bioforce on the ground, actually not that big. Although, now I'm looking at the reinforcements, and yeah, that is a pretty sizable army. We'll see if Nightmare can get the miracle connections he needs with the Disruptors. That first one able to catch, I think, a Marauder and a Marine, so not that great just yet.
Okay, he sees a weak point here. He's going to dive in on top of these Colossi. It looks like they narrowly escape.
Oh, he goes onto the natural.
Oh!
What a Hail Mary!
Well, it did not work. He did not get those Disruptor shots off. He still might. Well, actually, I don't know that he can actually win this fight at all.
No,
Here comes the Void Ray. We're getting every single one of the Protoss units in this game state.
Yeah.
GG, there it is. Game one. GuMiho takes that win. It's actually a pretty good PVT that we saw back there.
I'm surprised that Nightmare was able to survive as long as he did. I know GuMiho got a little bit trigger happy there, pushing into the natural expansion, eating some really meaty Disruptor shots to try and just end the game. Because Nightmare was dead in the water after that push, man. He lost the third base. He was out of position. He took a ton of damage in the natural. Every single probe died while GuMiho was double expanding and adding in ghosts. But showing some really good tenacity, able to stick with it for what, another 5 minutes? I mean, I would have tapped out right then and there. But
it's hard. It's like you watch the Protoss get into a more and more difficult game. Where and I even kind of like the recall everything on top of that. Hope you get the good Disruptor shots. It did not pay off. And we're going to be going to Oceanborn here.
And Nightmare's map of choice coming in.
Now, actually, I think we're going to start this game. I want to talk a little bit more about Game 1, but we'll get into that as we get to the start here of Game 2. We'll recap a little bit more of that because there was a lot of interesting stuff that happened early on. Guys, GuMiho versus Nightmare Game 2 starting now. Okay, GuMiho here in the top left and Nightmare in the bottom right.
You timed that perfectly. It's impressive.
I almost just waited again. Like, oh, production mixed up again. Someone's going to be in trouble after the show.
Going to be a gateway scout here from Nightmare. I believe not quite as early as we saw there in game number 1. Actually, oh, I see. Okay, so he's maybe reading into something that he's seen from GuMiho in previous games or potentially even practice games. Really curious about the proxy spots. That is some very paranoid scouting coming from Nightmare. But again, going back to that game number 1, I did really like the response that he made to that 3 barracks opening.
Yeah, so I thought Nightmare was going to win. I think a couple things went wrong there. First of all, the place where he made the proxy gateway was actually, because here's the thing, when the Marines get stopped there, they have to get back home.
Yeah.
I guess maybe you could try to do some. No, I was thinking maybe you could try to like counterattack as they leave their base. No, that would still lose. There's just the Marines, if they don't get in there and get any damage done because the Protoss is playing safe, you have to get back home. So you need to make sure that that gateway is not in a place where the Marines are just going to walk through it. And then the other thing was that he didn't see that third base. So the third base, there's a world where like he spots that and decides to not try to focus so heavily on the entrance, and he'll just kill off that nexus. I'm sorry, that command center. And then we have at least a very different game. What was weird is the Terran got to both hold off the Colossus Stalker push and keep the third base. So right when that was driven away, all the SCVs could go populate the mineral patches, and it was like a really good position for GuMiho. That being said, I think Nightmare put up a pretty good fight and defended pretty well, but I think he could have just been in a much better position off of getting that, like, in air quotes, kind of build order win in that he stopped the Stim Marines with no medevacs.
Yeah, GuMiho was really looking up against the ropes after that early game, but Site Delta is one of those maps where siege tanks are, you know, maybe the best that they can be in this matchup. There's so many choke points, like attacking up that natural ramp there. Say we have that same game play out here on Oceanborn, where there's so much more room to play with in natural expansion, attacking in with Colossi. Maybe Nightmare, if we play that same game here, can actually go in with a killing blow, and you know he's not going to miss the third base in that situation, right? But it's just a tough position there for Nightmare. A lot of things not going his way in terms of vision. In addition to missing the third command center there at the linear third, he also missed the double medevac drop coming into the natural third base, which forced a recall. And although the drop, you know, lost a lot of Marines, didn't get a lot of damage done, the medevacs took a beating. It bought GuMiho the time he needed to really entrench himself with constant siege tank production, both in the natural and in the third base, until he really had a composition that can go toe-to-toe with Nightmare. And now that I think about it, a lot of the misplays from Nightmare's perspective of that match really did come down to map vision. The early game scouting with the Observer of the 3 barracks was perfect, but from then on, it felt like there were a couple different instances. Missing the third base, missing the double medevac drop, and then later on missing the push where GuMiho moved cross map and literally just walked into the third and killed it.
Yeah, it seems like that build that GuMiho did earlier, it's like the Terran, the Protoss doesn't know if it's going to be like this Widow Mine drop or what, and then that push would come out and hit him at the right moment. But he held it perfectly. But look, in this game, this looks a lot more like a GuMiho build, by the way.
Yeah.
Cyclone out on the map, quick third base, Raven coming up here. You know, GuMiho has had a lot of games where he's done some great 2-base pressure, especially with Cyclones and stuff like that. But this is going to be, you know, a pretty quick third base. Now, I think there's counterplay here for Nightmare.
Yeah,
there's no third Nexus. He's going to have a bunch of Stalkers with Blink coming up here. You know, this is an army where, like, if you can get in, get the damage, and maybe blink away, it's going to be tough to have that third base set up.
Yeah, 5 Stalkers already coming out on the map.
How many gates is he on?
I believe it's 3.
Is it 3 or 4?
I think it's a 3 gateway.
It looks like on the minimap 3, yeah. So there is a 4-gate build that I think is still pretty strong. It's going to be followed up here with Charge. But, you know, if it's 4-gate or something like that, that really could be something where if the Terran overextends, taking the third base, you might actually die.
Especially with the build that GuMiho is going for right now. Triple Raven GuMiho! This isn't just double Raven, it's triple?
Oh, that's so crazy.
With a fast third command center. And now a lot more gateways coming in from Nightmare. So looking at this from Nightmare's perspective, he's not going for the 4-gate blink style that we often see max packs do in online cups. Instead, he's going for something that's a little bit more macro focused. The third base is going to be more quick here, but he's adding in a lot of gateways. He's getting charged, and I feel like the game plan is not to try and get any kind of damage done early with just the Stalkers blinking into the main base or trying to get damage into the natural. Instead, it's going to be something that's a little bit more focused on pressuring the third base should Nightmare decide to play it out that way. Even more gateways going down, by the way. And against GuMiho's composition, with all these siege tanks, with a really fast third command center, with triple Raven, that's a lot of starport production that's not going to be there to assist the Marine Marauder with medevacs. In fact, we don't even have a medevac on the field, and it's past the 6-minute mark, which is insane.
Yeah.
So there are some chances here for Nightmare if he finds an opportunity to go in for an attack, especially if GuMiho gets greedy with that third base. But what GuMiho did very well in that first match was buy time with units cross map, and he's going to try and do the same thing right now with the Raven. Oh, whoa. Nice feedbacks, but just barely missing him. Actually, both turrets being able to drop down and get a couple of probe kills there is a good win for GuMiho. But in terms of builds, once again, for Nightmare, I'm quite liking this if he is able to find an angle on the third base.
Yeah, behind this, we're going to have a lot more bio come down here. And, you know, the Ravens, you can get, like, minimal damage out with that. You do have to be careful because when Templars are out, if you banked up enough energy, you can end up just losing that before they're able to cast down those turrets. And we're just going to continue to see development here. I don't think there's any rationale for Protoss to try to attack out. I think that GuMiho played it very safe. He got his third base, well, the third command center quickly, but he didn't take it too fast. And so at the same time on the map, Nightmare is going to be taking his 4th base at 6 o'clock.
I feel like if Nightmare had perfect information, if he could see the map the way that we see it, he would not be taking that 4th base. He would be going for an attack because there are still no medevacs out on the field, Tasteless. I mean, if these bios, if they stim, that's basically permanent damage at this point. And actually, GuMiho is making Vikings. So this is him, I think, responding to the Warp Prism, but this is such a weird composition. It's basically pure siege tank. But I feel like if Nightmare comes in with Storm Drops, if he's able to get them off with a ton of Charge Zealots, I mean, those siege tanks, they don't really cover each other very well. It's 5 tanks all in the line at the third.
It's so funny because medevacs are such a core part of the army if you have bio. I never even think about games where you wouldn't have them.
He still has none. This
he
is
still
insane.
has 0. So, like, you're right. I mean, 1 or 2 Psystorms and all those squishy infantry units are going to die. The original medic at StarCraft 1 was made because, you know, Marines were so weak and had so low HP that, you know, any damage was just so detrimental to it having any function at all, even though they made bunkers which you could put the Marines in. But, you know, on a map where there's this kind of splash out here, this is kind of wild. So even the 1 stem.
Yeah.
Oh, here
plus
we go.
a storm. Oh, double storm. That's huge. That's most of the bio already written out.
And now the Stalkers can just one-shot those weaker units.
Yeah, the problem is for Nightmare is he's not really committing to an attack. He's macroing behind this. He's adding in Colossus. He's taking an additional base. And these Ravens on the other side are causing a lot of mayhem. I mean, that's going to be, what, 3, 4, maybe even 5 auto turrets going down.
I almost liked when he had the auto turrets on the other side. I guess he wanted to have 1 on the left and then enough on the other side that they couldn't get away.
Battery. Those things deal so much damage. And Nightmare, again, getting caught out of position. He's in the middle of the map. I'm not sure he's aware that GuMiho is about to siege down this 4th base.
Okay, another great storm. So he can intercept the reinforcements, but he also may end up losing this base down here at 6 o'clock. Keep in mind that, you know, if the Protoss Army doesn't get down here in time, this Nexus is going to be wiped out very, very quickly. We've got an attack coming down here from the top. The Viking driving the War Prism away.
Not a lot of bio here to support these siege tanks, though.
Yeah, and already the first 2 medevacs have drained all their energy.
I feel like there might be a time for Nightmare to come in with an attack. He has a lot of charge zealots. If he's able to mitigate his splash damage here on these siege tanks, all right, coming in. Some good storms. Oh, that storm catches all 4 siege tanks, and yeah, that just gets cleaned up right there from GuMiho.
This is such a weird comp. I mean, we're seeing the result of neglecting medevac tech. Like, the first 2 medevacs come there, they heal up everything, and then they're literally out.
It's so bizarre. I don't think I've seen a TVP composition played quite like this before.
I cannot remember. I remember, like, a million years ago, I think it was either Vortex or Lucifron, a game where he just wasn't getting medevacs, and it was, like, a lot of stim. And I remember Artosis and me talking about it and being like, that's interesting. Like, I wonder. But, you know, it never became a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm watching this, and I'm trying to think of what composition it would be very good against.
Well, I mean, it might not have been a premeditated decision. It might have been really more about trying to get the Ravens out. And then he realizes, oh, I actually need to get these Vikings now to counter this. And then what happens is it's like, oh, you have a really weird-looking army.
All right, another attack coming in from Nightmare, just poking forward a little bit. Only 1 siege tank and another pretty nice storm. Keep in mind, those medevacs, they're very late to the party, so they are low on energy. All these storms, even if they don't convert into kills, anything you can do right now as Protoss to mitigate the energy buildup on those medevacs is huge. Because, I mean, look at the bio. There's 4 medevacs. It still can't heal everything up in time. Right, this is the kind of situation where I wouldn't mind GuMiho throwing down another starport and getting the upgrade to the medevac energy region, because, man, you got to heal those units. That's a scary position to be in right now. I mean, there is a world where GuMiho is just able to hunker down on these 4 bases and max out and have a really powerful composition, but...
You know, it's funny, man. Like, I say this all the time because I casted GuMiho for so long that he just never looks like other Terrans, but sometimes GuMiho still doesn't look like other Terrans and also doesn't look like GuMiho either, you know what I'm saying? This is a wild game. By the way, this is a lot more dramatic and drawn out than I thought it was going to be with these 2. Nightmare is definitely continuing to grow. I think he's created a game where the Terran is on his back foot right now, not feeling safe to try to push out on the map, with Nightmare having the bulk of his army in the middle of the map, ready to press in and start to push down on any one of these bases.
Looking forward again. A lot of ghosts in this composition now, so GuMiho able to spend a lot of that gas effectively here on these 4 bases. That is a powerful comp against a Templar-based army, and that's why Nightmare is starting to trickle in these disruptors, as well as going into a Colossi, or not a Colossi, excuse me, a carrier transition. And I kind of like for Nightmare that he is getting his tech tree completely filled out, but at the same time, going into the late game, Maru is probably the worst Terran to go into the late game against in the world, but GuMiho is also right up there. This guy is probably more comfortable than anyone with these really weird compositions. I mean, we have nukes again coming in here in game number 2. We didn't really get to see them utilized in game 1, but...
You know, I think that at this point in time, Nightmare might have sat on the advantage he had for a little bit too long. I think GuMiho has been able to develop and tech himself into a position that's like just frankly a lot better than where he was before. And now I think we're seeing Nightmare try to come in here and push and get some real damage done, and it's not quite happening. GuMiho is doing a really good job at taking advantage of like the distance he can create, the arcs he can create, and really forcing the Protoss to kind of maybe lean in too hard. And so now we're seeing this entire quadrant of the map get soaked up by GuMiho's bases.
I wonder if GuMiho is aware of the carrier transition, by the way. I'm not sure whether he has scanned it, because these carriers are just pooling in the main base.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the final part of the army. We've got one Colossus coming out here as well. And that might give him a little bit more sustain to try to push in from here.
Yeah, and it's Liberators here for GuMiho. His composition is very Marauder heavy on the ground,
which I think is good for the number of Colossi that are in this game.
It is, but it depends on exactly how the fight goes, I think, because if GuMiho isn't aware of the carriers and he gets caught off guard a little bit and he trades out some of those Vikings for Colossi in an engagement, then suddenly there isn't much anti-air to deal with this massive pool of carriers that is just building and building and building up in the main base of Nightmare. And I mean, Nightmare, he's playing this almost like a poker game right now. He's trying to play it very close to the vest. He's getting a little bit less active on the map in this moment, but for the past couple of minutes, he's been poking and prodding with his group of Templar, with Disruptors, with Colossi, trying to find any damage he can. And if GuMiho doesn't get keyed in on this very quickly, things could go awry in a heartbeat, because he's investing a lot of gas into Liberators. He's getting Liberator range. He's setting up for harassment. And yes, he is sitting on 2 starport, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to change his composition quickly enough to actually deal with this army. Should this engagement, this first engagement, go well for Nightmare, and this is really the first time I think GuMiho is catching wind of exactly what the composition is. That's what, 4 or 5 extremely high energy Templar. There are Disruptors on the ground, Colossi to assist against the Marines, and yeah, GuMiho immediately firing up 4 Vikings in production. This is a scary moment here for the Terran.
Yeah, Terran has to be ready. The War Prism's going to be coming in here. Not that Protoss is like really lost any units at this point in time. Armor Shredder goes down. But of course, the Protoss can just disengage and wait for that to run out and then move back in.
Plus 2 air weapons on these carriers as well, so a lot of damage here to be dished out. See Nightmare kind of biding his time, and oh, those Vikings a little bit too far forward. Stalker's actually able to pick off a couple of them, and here we go. Nightmare engaging it, that Disruptor shot really huge, gets the building missile turret, a ton of the bio. The ground army here for Nightmare is thinning out, but the carriers have basically nothing to contest them at all. There are 7 Vikings and 8 Marines on the field.
Yeah, and there's just enough here for Protoss. I think this could be the tipping point. Now, there's a lot that can be replenished here with the infrastructure that's already in place, but this is a lot of carriers.
Yeah.
And when you start to get low enough in units against carriers, it's hard to make any kind of impact in this big warp in over here. A lot of Zealots coming down. They're going to try to come in here and smash this base.
All right, Nightmare double expanding to the top right and the bottom left behind us. A huge Stalker warp in back at home, as that War Prism was a little bit late coming onto the front line. And I think Nightmare, once he finishes this Remax, once these Stalkers enter the fray, is going to try to go for the killing blow. He does not want to let GuMiho get the correct answer. Army supplies 120 in favor of Nightmare to 73 right now. Stalkers blink forward, one-shotting the Vikings in the front line. I think we're going to a Game 3 tasteless. GuMiho,
I think we are. Yeah,
he is up against the ropes.
This is looking really good. And, you know, GuMiho had a weird start. I think he got to a somewhat stable position, but Nightmare did not overplay his position. He did not overextend. He eventually got those carriers. The Vikings are going to come out, but they're so late, and now the Stalkers can try to counter that as well. I think we've got GG in a second here.
Maybe. It's a pretty good engagement here for GuMiho, better than I thought, but those Colossi and the carrier still on the ground. Just going to be a little bit too much. That was about as good a fight as GuMiho could have possibly asked for, I think, but...
Well, it's just 1 Colossus, 1 carrier, Zealot, Stalker. GuMiho barely hanging on. By the way, he has a lot of orbitals here. Oh my God.
Talk about orbitals, man.
Teed up that moment in the game here.
Wait. He's at 1,250 minerals a minute, and I want to see after like the second round of minerals getting returned here by the mules what that
just
goes up
to.
to.
The infinity symbol.
Almost already 4K.
I still think GuMiho probably dies here, but let's just, in a world where he doesn't, it would be one where Maybe he could try to claw his way back. No, there's so many Archons here, and
I mean, the Sim City is working in GuMiho's favor, but
Yeah.
he's on borrowed time right now. I mean, Nightmare is just fully powered up. He has those double expansions kicking in as well. 80 probes back at home. GG is called. We're going to go to a game 3. Nightmare looking really solid there.
But, you know, GuMiho, he's had a lot of weird openings today.
Yeah.
He had that, you know, that kind of unorthodox Marine stim timing with no medevacs backing it. That backfired. And then this game, it was like, literally, I think the latest medevacs I can think of in Legacy of the Void.
It was maybe like 7 minutes, 7:30, something like that.
It was 3 Ravens into, I think
2 Vikings.
It was a 2 or 4. It might have been even 4.
It was a handful of Vikings, and then
Yeah.
he went to the medevacs. Yeah, that was absurd.
That's crazy.
Yeah, 2 very wonky builds, even by GuMiho standards. I mean, I guess 3 racks is about, it's pretty standard, something you mix in a while.
We see it, you know, we see it from time to time. I thought if we were going to see it today, it'd be from ByuN, but
yeah.
Yeah, we're going to go to map 3. This is turning out to be a really great series. Some pretty long PVTs here as well. Great to see Nightmare really understands how to take a long PVT where if he overextended, he would have lost, and instead teched into those carriers, cemented that win, and took it. Guys, game 3 is loading up. Let's see who takes the first best of 3 here in Group C.
All right, all tied up 1-1 here. GuMiho spawning in the top right, Nightmare down at the bottom left, going for an instant scout. So he does not want to get caught off guard in this match. Looking at this so far, it looks like GuMiho not going for a proxy barracks, so not too much information Nightmare's gonna be able to glean here, but I mean, against a player like GuMiho, especially after the builds he busted out in Game 1 and Game 2, I think it's a really smart move to, once again here on Solaris, come out with this instant probe scout and just confirm that there's nothing too crazy up GuMiho's sleeves just yet. But to go back to Game 2 for a second, that was such a weird composition that GuMiho played. I really am struggling to think about what that would be good against, except maybe a 2-base Colossus push. I think that's really the only build that you would find a lot of value, going triple Raven into 5 siege tanks with basically no medevacs.
Yeah.
Because Nightmare had 2 different ways he could play it there. You could go for the faster 3rd base and the faster 4th base and macro the way that Nightmare did in Game 2, and that came into a win. But also with the medevacs being so delayed, had Nightmare not gone for that 4th base, but instead stayed very low gas, throw down even more gateways, and just basically go full gateway man, throw down a ton of charge zealots, a ton of blink stalkers, and charge into that 3rd, I'm pretty sure GuMiho would have been dead. I think it would be a really tough hole, especially with the siege tank positioning. 5 tanks all in a line there at the 3rd with maybe 1 bunker. I don't think GuMiho holds that push, so I'm just looking at the game from that perspective, and I'm thinking about all the different ways it feels like GuMiho can die. And he kind of got lucky in that Nightmare did the more passive approach, and GuMiho was able to push out on his own terms, and it still got cleaned up almost for free by a ton of charge zealots. And it has me kind of scratching my head, wondering exactly what the game plan is going to be here for GuMiho coming into game number 3, because Game 1, as you said, that 3 barracks opening, it is something that we see mixed in from time to time, but it's more in the lines of the kind of build that ByuN would do. It's not really GuMiho's style when I think of GuMiho as a player. And then Game 2, just almost completely off the rails, a super off-meta build. Very chaotic.
You know, here's what I'm thinking is happening. We talked about how this could very easily be a 5 TVP best of 3 day. That probably requires so much thought into what builds you do versus who on what maps, and which builds are more likely, maybe your weaker builds, because the truth is you probably can't play the same way every game if you have to play the same matchup, you know, as many times as these guys might have to today. So you have to have all these different builds, and then it's like, you know that some of your builds are stronger than others, but you might have to dish out some of those builds that are weaker just so that you have some image of randomness, of unpredictability. And if I'm looking at this correctly, I think GuMiho thinks he's better than Nightmare and is trying some kind of weird stuff early on so that whoever, you know, assuming he does have to play another Protoss later on, like Creator, Creator won't have a good read on what's happening, but it is really tripping him up.
I suppose if you are going to go for one of those zany builds, Game 2 being up 1-0 in a best-of-3 against a player that you're favored against probably is the time to dish it out.
So this build is more in the realm of normal.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got Stim coming, we've got the Siege Tanks, we even have the trademarked GuMiho Cyclone roaming the map. And over on the Protoss side of the map, this is a build we just see all the time, which is the Robo into Stalker Blink. We want to count how many gateways are actually here. That's a gateway above the other gateway, right? So this is the 3-gate build. I don't see a 4th.
No, it's basically the same build we saw from him on Oceanborn in the previous map.
Right. And so, you know, Terran has the option to push here. You got to be careful with Stalkers with Blink. You know, there's so much more mobility on your side here. Even losing that Reaper is a pretty big deal. There is going to be a medevac coming out here.
And
no reactor. Sorry, go ahead.
No, just it is funny now that we're like pointing out the medevac. Yeah, he is making the unit that every other Terran makes.
Yeah,
he's actually doing it this time. But GuMiho is really teeing up this one for a big siege tank push. And man, we were talking about game 1, how unlucky it was that Nightmare just barely missed the scouting at several different key moments. Well, this is another one. He's going to catch the infrastructure. He should be able to identify, based on the factory, that this is going to be a siege tank push, but he missed the timing of the move out. He missed the SCVs getting pulled as well, and GuMiho is just going to walk up to the natural expansion. Nightmare thinks this position is probably safe. And normally if you play Blink Stalker like this, even with 5 Stalkers, you want to try and slowly chip away at the Terran as they're moving across the map. This is basically the worst case scenario where the siege tank is knocking on your front door.
Oh, dude, the Robo, if he could unpower this. Oh, he shuts it off.
Yeah.
The Immortal is locked out. He didn't pull the boys. He pulled only the biggest boys. Only his 6 best SCVs here. He's going to take out this pylon as well. Is there a pylon above this?
Yeah, there is, but that one's probably going to go down too. Marine's focusing it down. That's 3 more gateways. That's half of Nightmare's production right now. Immediately eliminated. Oh, he comes in right before a charge. These Zealots even taking bonus damage coming in. And GuMiho just basically decapitated
Dude, how is that
Nightmare.
tank not dead?
The SCVs, it's the boys!
I can't believe it. I was so sure that at least that one tank would go down. It would be some kind of a moral victory.
Wow.
Nicely done. Great game. Now, see, that looked more like just GuMiho being solid and good. I think he had to get a little bit crazy with some of his builds, and it backfired. It almost cost him the set. But in the end, he just did a very straightforward build. He won. I mean, this is like, you know, a ladder game victory push. Terran wipes out the 3 basing Protoss before they can get the right tech. The one moment we almost didn't really talk about it is when he sniped that observer, and then the second observer was on a trajectory where it didn't get to see the attack coming. Guys, we're going to go to a break. ByuN versus Creator coming up next. We'll be right back.
shining, and I am sensing danger. Are the stars aligning? My mood is slowly changing. Something's haunting me, lurking in the dark. Carefully, it is stalking from afar. Like a thief in the night, it's staying out of my sight. But I'm not afraid, so I will stay and put up a fight. I don't care if it hurts, or if I crash down and burn. I will rise like a phoenix from the ashes and return. It's like the wolves are talking, whispering to me. Try to keep my calm by counting down the sheep. Counting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 sheep. Slowly they're coming for me, but I don't get what I'm doing wrong. Counting 4, 5, 6, but it is hard. They try to tear me apart. I am done with the misery. Like a thief in the night, it's staying out of my sight. But I'm not afraid, so I will stay and put up a fight. I don't care if it hurts, or if I crash down and burn. I will rise like a phoenix from the ashes and return.
What gives you tunnel vision? Is that observer that missed the army?
Or the observer that missed the double medevac drop in game 1.
These lyrics. Welcome back, everybody. We just finished up a TVP, and that means it's time for another TVP.
Yeah, ByuN versus Creator.
This should look very different, by the way.
Yeah, for me personally, this is the highlight of the night, is these two going at it, because ByuN, he's been looking really feisty in TVP these days.
Yeah.
He's looking quite solid. He's been winning the majority of his matches by a long shot, both online and offline over the past.
He's
like
cleaning the gunk off his mouse. Look at that.
Oh, is he? I gotta go home and do that. Actually. It's been a while.
Yeah. You go home, clean the gunk off your mouse. You're like, what gunk? You flip it over, and you go,
you take out the mouse
ew,
ball.
what is this grime on my mouse?
Do you remember we had mice balls? I think when I first started playing RTS, I still had like the mouse ball kind of mouse.
Oh, I had a mouse ball. I used to take my mouse ball out and roll it in my hands, and then I get into my tournament match, and I just feel it skip over the pad as I'm micro shuttle Reaver and go, oh, God. I hope they invent lasers to do this one day.
Oh, yeah. I remember for a while I was a little skeptical of the lasers. I was like, I trust my mouse ball. I don't know if I want to go to the lasers. And then after that, it was like the wireless mouse. It's like, that's never going to be better.
Oh, Artosis until like, I think 2 or 3 years ago was still skeptical of wireless mouse. I'm like, Artosis, you need to get a wireless mouse. This is insane.
I'm still skeptical. I still use a wired one.
What?
I'm really ghetto too. I'll like, I don't have a mouse bungee because I'm cheap. I'll like run the cable from my mouse like through the thing that holds up the blinds. You know how you open and close the curtains?
Dude, you're a cave person. This is insane. You're gonna lose your job talking about stuff like that.
That's okay.
Do you macro with your Xbox controller? This is wild stuff, man. I can't believe it's
No, that's only in Dota. All right, ByuN versus Creator. Game 1 here on Hecate loading up. Let's see which of these two gamers is going to go on and face GuMiho in the winner's match.
Okay, so we've got ByuN here in the bottom left and Creator in the top right.
ByuN going gas first. Oh, it came all the way from Busan. Wow,
Yeah,
wants
welcome.
ByuN to win. That's a long way to go, man. That's cross country out here in Korea. It doesn't get much further
literally,
than that.
yeah. You gotta swim across Jeju to make it further than that.
Creator and Nightmare fighting.
Welcome, everybody. So good to have you all here in the studio. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, I love this.
Hold on. There's a pylon?
I think it's going to be a, if I'm guessing correctly, a proxy 2 gate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one gate win the main base, and then we're going to proxy a second one out here.
Yeah.
You get that cybernetics core down in a
Creator
minute.
really does have so many builds. Like, he's always had so many different approaches.
I love this.
Macro builds, cheesy builds.
And ByuN's going gas first, too. So if he tries to tech up really quickly, this could get scary for him, because I think we're probably going to have one Zealot come out. We'll see exactly what flavor of 2-gate this is going to be from Creator. Of course, keep in mind, guys, that first gateway is in the main base. From Australia, that's
welcome.
even further than Busan.
I know. You were walking around upside down, and now you're here in Korea. Welcome.
But yeah, I think this might be a little bit scary here for ByuN. He's going gas first into Reaper, and then adding that command center. So this could be a really quick factory. And immediately gets thrown down here. The natural. Where's this barracks actually? Is it in the back of his main? He doesn't have a full wall off right now. It's just that factory and the natural ramp. Oh, this is scary.
2 stalkers coming up here.
Yeah, and there's already a Zealot moving across map. This is scary here for ByuN. This could just decapitate him.
Yeah, this could just kill you. Keep in mind the Reaper, you know, it's kind of combing the map. It's not going directly across. ByuN would be better served if he had beelined that.
Yeah.
So this is not walled in yet.
No, it's not.
In fact, yeah, he could. I think, yeah, he can't quite kill the SCV that's making the factory. So at least that finishes. But like, this is going to be a lot of damage. Now he needs to be careful.
Yeah, don't get surrounded by this. Do not get surrounded by the SCVs.
Specifically the Stalker, you can't let that get surrounded.
Oh my God.
Oh no, it's okay.
Is it? It's looking pretty bad too. He doesn't get surrounded by the SCVs. You cannot let that happen. All right, so this is going to be some damage coming in.
Oh, he gets out. Old slippery Stalker.
Cyclone almost out right now.
Just soaked in olive oil.
ByuN is going to try it. And stabilize right here, but already losing a ton of workers. Now the Cyclone is the ideal unit in this situation, but with so many SCVs low on HP, at least one or two more should go down.
Oh, I guess the Reaper was killing stuff up there as well.
Oh, the Reaper came back and immediately gets dunked on by an Adept and a Stalker. That's even more damage.
He hiccuped the attack for a second, but he did end up getting the kill on it. So it's 14 workers to 22. And, I mean, the wall-in is not finished. So when he lifts it up, I guess he has to go around if he wants to get fully in there. A second Cyclone comes out.
I think we're only going to have a handful of Stalkers here. Now, Cyclones, when they do have room to actually maneuver out on the map like this, when they can really properly kite, they're very powerful in situations like this one. And absolutely, the Stalker's actually going to poke forward. They should be able to get that first one. Trading out quite nicely, but it's just so much damage. I almost wish Creator would have just turned around and, you know, at least get some more hits off on that Cyclone with the Stalker, because you cannot run away in that situation. But all said and done, it's 6 workers up here for Creator. He already has his Nexus pumping workers on the low ground. ByuN took a lot of damage in the main base. Not quite the decapitation move that was potentially in the cards there, but still a lot of damage dealt.
How much damage can this Cyclone do? I love the
that was so smart
hit from the side there.
Yeah, that almost got the Cyclone.
But you know, with the second Cyclone coming up, I mean, one thing about Cyclones is like you get what you.
Oh, hold on, dead.
Double kill there. So obviously the Marines, they can't do anything. At this point in time, like when you're making Marines in this attack, it's like, yeah, well, I have a building that makes another attacking unit, so that's why I'm doing it. It's not because it's really good here. It's because I want more material on the board in my fights.
Very interesting early game here. I love Creator just coming out with openings like this one, especially game 1 in a best of 3 in a day that you're probably going to be playing a lot of PBT. Just kind of like GuMiho there in game number 2, just throwing something a little bit out of the box to throw your opponents off.
I think we're going to have a lot of interesting TVP builds today, assuming that we get the matchup as much as we think we might. But yeah, you know, I want to see if there's going to be any opportunity to kind of come in here and do some counterattacks. It is a second barracks that's coming down here. Obviously, you know, we're seeing workers fill up the natural expansions here. They both kind of went for pretty sharp builds, and it was a chaotic early game, but now we're getting back into the macro phase of the game here. Blink is coming along. I don't think we're going to see Protoss move out on the map at all until Blink is done, and even then it might be a little while.
Yeah, it's going to be 4-gate Blink from Creator too, so that third Nexus not quite going down just yet. Should telegraph this a little bit for ByuN, even if he doesn't get complete scouting information.
You know, he's being smart. He has the probe and the pylon over there to make it look like he's planning on getting that third base. But yeah, you're right, he's not. There's going to be a real opportunity to try to attack it again. If we do have an attack across the map when Blink is done with those Stalkers, by the way, War Prism coming here, so that should indicate that's even more of a possibility now. It is going to come down to where the siege tanks are positioned, and can the Stalkers blink on the tanks and maybe get away?
Yeah, there are some tricks you can do with Blink Stalkers here on Hecate. There are some angles you can attack from in the natural expansion, blink back out into the third base, although it is some kind of fidangly micro where things can go awry quite quickly if you're not completely on point with it. But I would be surprised if ByuN died of this unless Creator just micros out of his mind. Now, the Liberator is moving cross-map for harassment. Cyclone is still hovering above that natural and third base for Creator, but this is only 45 probes. Pro production right now, very intermittent, potentially even stalled as Creator's looking for killing blows. Let's see if he blinks forward, and oh, he actually gets a tank on the high ground with that move. Brilliant, played that right there.
Oh, can he actually get this? No, he cannot.
Just barely enough surface area.
He activated his counterattack a little bit late here, ByuN did. But that was such a big blow here. You could see positionally, ByuN basically had it look like he was way more vulnerable, like he might have been dropping way more on the map. And Creator just blinked into the jaws of the beast back there.
Yeah, and with Stimpack about to complete here, Creator cannot go for another blink into the main base, because if a Stim comes forward, okay, he's doing it. This is really scary, because that's a lot of Stim bio that's going to just pounce on top of these Stalkers just immediately.
Oh my God.
I mean, they get completely destroyed. They're only 4 surviving, and when you play Blink Stalker like this, it is very momentum-based. You cannot really afford to lose these units, because you want to play low gas, you want to get a ball of Stalkers up, and then you want to be pumping a ton of Zealots while you slowly tech up with the remaining gas. And for Creator right now, I'm concerned. He bled out way too many Stalkers in the main base. ByuN is feeling comfortable enough to even take the third base while going for a double drop like this. Gonna get the Observer at the main base as well. And I don't even think we have a Forge in the cards here for Creator, so he's behind on upgrades. That charge only about halfway done. ByuN is going to have a very large window where he has room to play with these bio units on the map, but it's going to start with this double medevac drop here in the main base.
Yeah, this drop is going to be big. We'll see how quickly Creator notices it as well. And this is the thing, when you see a lot of Stalkers killed off, they're really, oh my God, right on top of this Immortal. That's going to wipe all of this out. The battery just can't do enough to sustain this. Now even the battery goes down.
He doesn't have a recall even here in the main base.
Yeah.
I mean, he has to basically walk home.
GG. There it is. ByuN takes game number 1 in a very convincing fashion. Cool build coming from Creator, but bad blinks are going to cost him the game.
Yeah, a little bit of miss micro there. The Stalker getting surrounded in the main base took a lot of the power out of the opening push. It made it harder for him to fight the first couple of Cyclones that came out of that factory. And so the damage wasn't quite what he was looking for. I think it was still playable. But then the 4-gate blink, I mean, sometimes it just completely flounders like it did there. He did not have a good read on when Stimpack was going to finish. And also going for the siege tank and the bunker was a little bit ambitious. So 2 oversteps If you play a build that's as cutthroat as 4-gate blink like that with a slow third base against a bio player,
yeah,
I mean,
off of the 2-gate opening,
yeah, it's dangerous. You have to thread the needle very carefully. You're basically playing on the knife's edge, and very few players in the world can execute it. I mean, Max Pax, obviously the best hero, can also make it work. Creator trying his own hand, but ByuN just a little bit too good there with the defense. Up 1-0 now here in the second match of Group C.
All right, guys, we're going to go to Oceanborn here. ByuN with that 1-0 lead. Again, probably going to have a lot of different TVP builds here. Although, obviously, if ByuN wins here, we will have a TVT in that winner's match. GuMiho awaits the victor of this best of 3. So, best of luck here to Creator as he needs to come back with 2 wins. Yeah, ByuN looking as strong as ever. We're ready to go to that game 2 now, guys. So, let's get ready to continue this series on. Okay, ByuN in the bottom right, Creator in the top left.
Wondering what builds these players go for here in game number 2. ByuN once again opening with a gas first.
Welcome. Thank you for coming down.
He's been watching since season 1. Let's see Kronos win.
From Hawaii. Aloha.
He chose a good time to come over. I'm sure the weather in Hawaii is amazing. Fly out
Yeah,
to Seoul right when the weather's getting good here too. That guy knows how to play it.
It was so cold about a month ago.
Even like last week, you picked a good time.
I
to
did.
Relax a little bit.
Well, I picked a good time to miss GSL too, because last week you guys had nothing but tech delays. You know that was just me playing God, right? I was watching you and Gemini Cast. I'm like, all right, let me phone into production. Like,
you guys are having too much
Make
fun.
the game crash. Let's see what these boys can do.
I can't remember the last time we had somebody need to get their computer replaced on stage with the GSL. It feels like that basically never happens.
We almost never have tech delays in this show just because it's like all the same computers and players and staff. And usually when you have a tech delay, it's on the first day of like a big overseas event where they have everything set up and then there's some unforeseen problem. But
I mean, occasionally like the white noise will go out and the players will pause and it takes like a minute to get it fixed. But
or sometimes it's that there's a light that's maybe 2 in one of the players' eyes, and so they got to fix that. And then in the first 2 or 3 years of StarCraft 2, it was players accidentally muting the sound and then freaking out and thinking the sound broke. This happened like every week for a while. It was just like nervous players like hitting whatever hockey combination will mute that, and then going, oh, something's wrong.
I hit Control-S trying to warp in a Stalker.
Right, yeah.
I hit Control-S trying to warp in a Stalker. I don't have sound anymore.
Mayday, mayday.
That happened pretty deep into StarCraft 2 as well. I want to say, like,
I
remember that
still
being
happen.
frequent up until like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, which the lifespan of StarCraft 2, that's pretty deep in the history. That's half the game.
Yeah. Well, people are still getting nervous before their matches and doing stuff like this. Look at that.
Check that out. Second command center coming in here for ByuN.
And it perfectly balances out the feng shui of his base. It's like one up there at the top right by the end, but also they've got one in the back.
Oh, interesting build. You know, with the gas first coming into this one, too, I was really expecting to see something more in line with what we saw in game number 1.
Yeah.
With the barracks into a command center, fast reactor off a Reaper, and then...
Well, I think there's some... I think it's kind of smart.
Yeah.
I mean, the build that Creator did was pretty cheesy, and it didn't work. And it feels like with really good players, sometimes if they do a cheesy build in game 1 and it doesn't work, they don't cheese as hard in game 2. And so this allows you to maybe greed a little bit more. Obviously, it's not a universal, but you know, there's always this poker game going on inside of the best of 3 as far as who opens with what build. So I like this.
Double Adept catching that Reaper in the middle of the map. Always a sigh of relief whenever that Reaper goes down as the Protoss player. That's like the first big hurdle in the game. Especially we don't play with a Reaper wall in the same way that Creator is this time. As he's just going to tech up into Blink and a Robo once again. I think this is 3-gate Blink. Yeah, it should be 3-gate Blink. So going to be a faster third base than we saw in the previous match. A little bit more macro focused. As Creator maybe licking his wounds and his pride a little bit after going for that really high-octane aggression there in game number 1 and just kind of falling flat on his face with the blinks. But I like the way this build lines up here against ByuN because unless you're really able to go for a killing blow with a 4-gate blink against a fast 3cc opening like this one, you're going to be playing from behind. So the fact that Creator will soon be throwing down that 3rd Nexus, unless he decides to play it really safe and go for the Robo-Bay behind.
Yeah, this is going to be a slower game for sure.
Yeah, Nexus goes down. I like this approach. This is about as standard as a PBT is going to get here on Korea.
Yeah, so we're going to be going up into a much more of a macro game. I mean, obviously, if Terran gets a 3rd command center like this really, really fast, there's really, literally no way for you to be aggressive on the map at all, I guess, unless you wanted to do some kind of a weird drop, which just doesn't feel like it'd be the right way to play.
Yeah, usually if you're going to mix in something with a 3cc build, it'll be like a Widow Mine drop, just to try and keep your opponent at home, but you don't see it too often at the super high level because it runs the risk of just falling flat, getting cleaned up by Stalkers, and then if your opponent is going 4-gate blink, and you go 3cc with a Widow Mine drop, yeah, that is the situation where you just die. As soon as they move across the map, losing that production time on the factory and then losing a production time on the starport as well is just really dangerous there as Terran. So I like ByuN just kind of playing it nice and conservative back at home. He's getting his upgrades. He's really leaning heavily into the barracks, which is quite nice against these Stalker-based compositions, especially if it's not 4-gate, because, I mean, yeah, you are going to lose some units like this. Some fancy micro coming out from Creator, able to focus fire a couple of these Marines. Might even get another one?
Yeah, not bad. Trades out the shields, but all of the Stalkers take a little bit of hull damage. It's got to be, probably going to be the last time you could try to do that here with concussive shells about to finish.
I wonder, we didn't get a chance during the intro to talk about the PTR patch notes that got released recently, but I don't think we have too many maps that are going to be coming out once that patch goes live with the healing zones, but I'm really curious about how that is going to play out when it eventually gets mixed in, because we've never had anything like that in StarCraft 2. But just imagine a situation where you do go for chip damage like that with the Stalkers, you get some pickoffs, and then you have map control so you heal them somewhere on the map. That's something Protoss doesn't get to do.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So,
I mean, fundamentally how we understand them.
Oh, this is a little bit lucky for ByuN here. I think Creator thought he was in the line of sight blocker, but wasn't. Yeah. And so does bleeding out of Stalker immediately. And now ByuN, he smells blood in the water, man.
Well,
double medevac drop in the natural expansion, and he's pushing the 3rd.
Now, this is right by where the Robo is. To keep in mind, you need like a certain amount of material to block. Dude, this is so bad.
Yeah, this is sick here for ByuN.
There's just not quite enough to catch up to whatever Terran has. It seems like on both sides, he might just end up losing this fight. There's enough infantry here. I think he can actually get a surround on this Colossus.
Yeah, with perfect micro, but keep in mind that he's spinning a lot of plates right now. He's going for a medevac drop here in the main base, pivoting in from the natural expansion. 13 probes already going down. I think that Colossus is still alive barely here at the 3rd. If the Marauders just get one volley off, and yes, they do, it will fall. This is so much damage. 21 probes, all of the key units reset there for Creator. The 2nd Colossus just now popped. Thermal Lance about to finish, but that's the kind of momentum-building move coming out from ByuN off this huge early 3rd base economy that could just snowball so quickly.
You know, honestly, I mean, Terran is looking so strong right now, and Protoss is just, it's like they, Creator,
Man, was that 2 Stalkers?
He barely has enough to defend any of these positions.
There is a world where he's able to stabilize, but it's going to be an uphill battle here for Creator. He has to play this basically perfectly from here on out.
Well, the thing is, it seems like Terran could be a little bit stronger with a small number of units, where Protoss has to have like the right set of units and a high enough number of them. That's why when we saw those Stalkers get picked off early on, it's like, oh, this could be really bad. We just had it highlighted that the forges, excuse me, are not double upgrading here. So
yeah,
Creator is a little bit shaken.
Looks like Creator is going to be going for a counterattack. He might feel that he's taken just a little bit too much damage back at home. He's only at 49 workers. We'll see if that slowly trickles up to a higher counter, if he's just going to full send it with this push. Those sentries do have 4 force fields available right now. If Creator decides to wait, he might have a couple more. So force field placement going to be very critical as he attacks in. First Vikings already on the field. Warpin's coming through. Goes for a Guardian Shield. One Sentry immediately gets picked off there. Some nice micro by ByuN.
Really good blink there, but is this going to be enough? The Zealots warp in, the Stalkers thin out, the SCVs come into the front, so the Colossi will be able to mow them down. Does that buy ByuN enough time?
Well, Creator actually with some nice control right now with these Colossi, but he has to be very careful not to let them get jumped on by these Marauders. Woo. Good micro. Hot pickups right there with the Warp Prism. Able to save both of them just for now, so 23 SCVs going down. The bio is thinning out a little bit, but eventually these Colossi will get picked off. No! Look at this Warp Prism micro! ByuN has to pick off the Warp Prism before he can take down the Colossi, and that was an excellent counterattack from Creator, but I'm just not sure it's going to be enough.
That's going to be it.
Wow.
GG. ByuN takes that series 2-0.
Admirable effort there by Creator, man. That was about as good a fight as you could possibly take from that position, but ByuN just a little bit too powerful.
Yeah, you know, ByuN just like way more clean. And look, I mean, there is this point in the game where it is not easy for Protoss to handle that mid-game pressure. Like, if you get tripped up at all,
it snowballs.
Medevacs have boost, infantry have stim. You've got your blink and your recall, but like that's a very different mechanic. And you know, at the blink of an eye, you can lose so many workers, and it all starts to compound from there.
Yeah, Creator looking a little bit frustrated with that first match. Means we will have a TDT in the winners match, PvP in the losers match. Guys, we're gonna go to a break. When we get back, ByuN versus GuMiho to decide who's gonna be first advancing into the round of 8.
So hold on to the highs while you're alright, 'cause you know you're gonna come down. Just a matter of time and you will find everything comes back around. Comes back around, comes back around, back around. Comes back around, comes back around. Knock, knock, let me in. Hard from far from blow
전체 예선 그리고 아틀란타 그리고 카토비치까지 계속 연습하면서 지냈습니다.
IM도 아쉽게 못 들고 힘들었는데 열심히 연습하면서 지냈던 것 같아요.
제가 이사를 했는데 제가 이사 전에 집이 없었는데 이사하는 동안 일주일 좀 넘게 있었던 것 같아요. 민순이랑 2주 있었고 조성주가 민수가 너무 많이 줘가지고 제가 도중에 모텔 가서 잤다니까요. 대회도 모텔에서 했어요, 온라인 대회를.
건강이 조금 안 좋아가지고 운동도 하고 회복도 하면서 좀 이렇게 지냈던 것 같습니다.
프로토스 좀 다 이제 떨어지고 종족 잘 골라서 좋겠다 하고 이제 종족 고른 게 좀 후회가 많이 되네요.
카토비체를 거의 매년 갔었고 그랬었는데 이번에 못 가게 되어서 힘들었지만 그냥 최대한 긍정적으로 이겨내려고 노력을 했어요.
그러니까 사실 현우가 세레머니 했던 건 저한테 그렇게 큰 인상이 남진 않았어요. 그 게임 자체가 너무 뭐랄까 너무 아쉬웠어서 끝나고 나서도 계속 아쉬웠던 것 같아요. 그날은 와 진짜 말도 안 된다. 이렇게 진다고? 이거를 진다고? 약간 이런 것만 계속 되뇌이고 있었어요.
하지만 너무 불리한 상태였어가지고 그걸 이겨서 더 많이 흥분했었어요. 그냥 재밌으라고 한 건데 생각보다 현장 반응이 되게 좋더라고요. 그래서 되게 잘했다고 생각해요.
사실 기다릴 때는 좀 짜증났는데 해보니까 좀 재밌었고 좀 뽑을 사람이 없다 이런 느낌을 좀 많이 받았던 것 같아요.
처음 하는 건데 온라인이어가지고 그냥 뭐 디스코드 하면서 노는 느낌이었던 것 같아요.
그래서 추첨을 하나는 괜찮은 것 같아요. 재밌기도 하고 랜덤이다 보니까 그래서 좀 추첨이 더 재밌는 것 같아요.
재미도 있었고 앞으로도 했으면 좋겠어요.
아 너무 예상했던 결과로 제 뒤가 이제 명호가 시드였거든요. 저한테 뽑히는 게 낫죠 무조건.
박영호 선수가 잘 뽑을 것 같아서 제가 빨리 살려고 얘기를 했죠.
마지막 줄은 예상하고 있었거든요. 근데 뭐 마지막 줄 갈 것도 없이 그냥 바로 뽑혀버리니까 양호 선수가 요즘 기세 좋으시다고 그냥 뽑아버린 것 같아요. 저도 좀 자존심 많이 상했어요.
딱히 누구라기보다는 종족으로 저그를 다 뽑아버리지 않았을까. 윤수 형이 저 뽑아준다고 했었는데 제가 거절했거든요. 성주가 무서워서 안 갔었는데 그게 좀 후회가 지금 되고 하고 있어요.
이게 16강에서는 이겨도 어차피 걔도 올라올 수 있기 때문에 독출할 거면 이제 4강 정도는 가야죠. 4강에서 해야 되기 때문에.
변현우 선수한테 지고 제가 떨어졌어가지고 이번에 제가 떨어뜨리겠습니다.
다 이기면 좋겠지만 장욱 선수가 저를 뽑았으니까 만나서 그냥 부셔버리고 싶네요.
IM 예선도 예선이지만 최종전에 좀 올인러시에 대한 기억이 아직도 있기 때문에 좀 갚아주고 싶은 생각이에요.
스스로가 생각한 안 좋은 습관들이 있거든요. 요즘에 게임 대회를 하다 보면 그 습관이 안 나오게끔 하는 게 목표입니다.
힘들겠지만 트로피 한번 들어보는 게 꿈이고 사우디 작년에 좋았거든요. 다시 한번 가보고 싶습니다.
목표는 4강이고 사우디 월드컵 가는 게 목표입니다.
목표는 뭐 항상 말했듯이 거창하게 뭐 결승 우승 그런 거는 아니고 저도 되니까 제가 후회하지 않을 경기만 했으면 좋겠어요. 그렇게 하면은 뭐 성적은 알아서 따라올 거라고 생각하기 때문에 네.
Welcome back, everybody. Remember how we talked about there was going to be TVPs all day? We lied. It's going to be TVT coming up next here, and after that, a PvP.
And then one more TVP, close things out. But
That's right.
first, ByuN versus GuMiho. One of these players is going to advance into the round of 8. One of them is going to go to the final match of the day and fight for their tournament life here in the GSL.
I think this is going to be a pretty even fight.
I think so too.
I think anybody who's 100% sure that one guy's going to win over the other is crazy. These guys are both looking very strong. Yeah, this is going to be a fun one.
I mean, GuMiho has been playing so well recently, specifically in GSL as well. He's gotten, what, 2 back-to-back top 4s, even a second place recently in last year. He's looking fantastic. And oftentimes when I think about GuMiho, I think about somebody that's a TVT sniper. He's one of the scariest players to play in this matchup.
Right.
Up there with like Clem and Maru. But ByuN is one of those guys that historically has had GuMiho's number in this matchup. I think because he can kind of play the same game GuMiho plays. GuMiho, he's hard to play against in TVT because he can be so crazy and unpredictable, but ByuN is the same way. He rolls with the punches very well, and so I think this is going to be a really fun match. ByuN versus GuMiho here in the winner's map. First match here on Hekany. Let's get into it.
Okay, ByuN here in the top right. GuMiho here in the bottom left. Excuse me.
You all right?
Like I've been poisoned.
Oh man, look at that, by the way. 96 to 145. GuMiho and ByuN. ByuN, maybe even a little bit more favored than I actually thought he was coming into this one.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, it's been, welcome from
Portugal.
Portugal. I've always wanted to go to Portugal.
They have really good egg tarts. I want one of those egg tarts, man.
You came prepared for everything today, State. What was I going to say? Okay, so those stats, like, obviously, they are accurate, but also they're so old, too. You got to keep in mind who's really on top of it now, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think there's 2 times stats can not really serve you well. One is if there just have not been almost any games where it's like, well, these guys' record is 1-0. I'm like, well, guess it would have to be right for one of them. But then also, if you're going to go all the way back, because there's been periods where ByuN was like the scariest Terran in the whole world, you know? And I'd be curious how much of that is like, let's say, the last 2 to 3 years.
I'm not sure about the last 2 to 3, but I do know that recently ByuN has had his number over the past couple of months. These guys have played in a couple of tournaments, especially online cups too. There's a lot of crowdfunding coming in from the community.
Yeah.
For a lot of these smaller tournaments that happen, you know, on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis that a lot of these folks in Korea like to play in. You get a lot of top talent in these little weekend or daily tournaments that is fun to watch. And so far, GuMiho just hasn't really been able to get too much damage in on ByuN in terms of their series, but it's one of those situations where online is different from offline. Playing in a daily or a weekend tournament is different than coming into a GSL, especially with this new format where we're going every single week. I mean, this is the 3rd week, right? These guys have known this matchup is potentially coming for weeks now. And they've had time to prepare for it. They've had time to practice for it. And so it kind of leads to the situation where the stats, they don't matter quite as much as you might think. And the games also probably aren't going to go exactly as you might expect, even given these players' recent matches, if you look at their histories together in games from, say, a month or 2 months ago.
TVT, by the way, I've really been enjoying as of late. It's proven to be a pretty crazy, explosive matchup. GuMiho going with his Cyclones out here early on. There's so many different types of games you can have TVT on 2-base. I mean, Terran really pretty quickly gets a big array of different units you could tech into, and they all pair differently with each other and function differently when they're in certain types of fights. We are getting the medevac coming out here for GuMiho. The same is true here for ByuN. It's a little bit later. We do also get these situations, and I'm only pointing this out because they're both getting their medevacs around the same time, where you could have them both try to drop or attack into each other and miss each other on the minimap.
I'm wondering now how many Cyclones we're going to see tasteless, because both ByuN and GuMiho threw down a 3rd gas extremely quickly.
Yeah.
ByuN, even before saturating the natural expansion at all, already built that refinery.
So this is what I was talking about. They're both picking up. So what's actually at home to defend? The Reaper sees that, by the way. ByuN's medevac has been spotted.
Yeah, GuMiho moving in with the double medevac, or not double medevac drop, but 2 Cyclones in this medevac here in the natural expansion. Now 2 Cyclones will soon pop from that reactor factory here for ByuN, but there is a small window where GuMiho actually can get some good damage in. And as you pointed out, Tasteless, that Reaper spotting that medevac moving cross map means that GuMiho is well prepared for the attack back at home, and he's getting a ton of SCVs to start out. I mean, 5 SCVs in a mirror matchup like that one, that is ByuN's worker lead pretty much thrown out of the window. And now we have ByuN actually coming in. This is potentially where that gas went, into a Raven, and he's getting Interference Matrix as well.
I mean, he still can't mine from this position. You know, the SCV's already, GuMiho, like, really taking control of this game. He might have overdone it a little bit over here. It looks like he wants to try to get that medevac, which actually allows an extra kill on that Cyclone. That's insane. Okay, I don't know if there's a follow-up, but I think it's not the craziest thing to think there could be.
So on ByuN's side of things, he's continuing to reactor out Cyclones. He does have that 1 Raven. Oh, he's actually going to catch this medevac? Wow.
Yeah.
That is some star sense right there.
Yeah, it comes right out there and intercepts that. We've got some tanks here. Obviously, not having the extra medevac that could have come back home is pretty big. Now we've got ByuN with his own medevac moving out here. It looks like he might try to come over to where the main is. If GuMiho keeps a very conservative posture, he could just intercept this.
Both players adding in a third command center as well, and we're not going to see extremely explosive Cyclone counts in this game. ByuN has pivoted from reactoring out Cyclones to reactoring out Marines. Considering to build Ravens, though, in fact, both players actually getting that interference matrix, so looks like they are kind of gearing up for something that's going to be a little bit more standard in terms of Siege Tank Raven in a TVT, where you try and find the right moment to pounce with disables on the Siege Tanks by leapfrogging in those critical moments, trying to get picks and playing for position, as ByuN just kind of testing the waters right now with this first medevac, and double engineering bay coming in for both players at almost identical times, so no one really should have much of an upgrade window should they both queue those up right away. You know, just a little bit faster with that right now.
Okay, we've got actually pretty good moves here, just coming in here and shutting down every SCV that's producing there. He's going to go ahead and disable, excuse me, he's going to disable that medevac here, which can allow him to pin these two Cyclones. Beautifully done here by GuMiho.
I mean, that Raven just has so much utility in this matchup.
Yeah. Well, it's a really great setup because it's really punishing that drop. I mean, it started out strong, but whenever you do a drop like that, you want to get in, but also actually get out. Big production explosion over here in the main for GuMiho. We have these two Ravens that are parked up by 12 o'clock, I assume. Well, hold on. He's actually going to push out here. I'm about to say he might come in and try to drop auto turrets, but if the push is going to come out, it would make more sense to pair those Ravens with the rest of the army.
Yeah, 3 Ravens here for GuMiho, just to the 2 of ByuN, as ByuN is looking to try and get the drop in at the natural expansion of GuMiho, who's a little bit out of position. Now, luckily for ByuN, with that SCV scout, very smart. He is going to spot this push coming into the natural, but with all these Ravens, I'm worried about that army right now that is stuck at the third base, because 2 disables, should they come through, could potentially get a lot of damage done, but this Cyclone drop already wreaking havoc on the natural expansion of GuMiho.
So he's killed off a lot of SCVs. We're already up to 10 over here. Now, that being said, I mean, this isn't anything that can help out with stopping this push. We saw that the auto turrets were baited out there from ByuN, so I think there's still going to be some squishiness there at the entrance. There's a big drop also headed southbound over here from ByuN.
Yeah, that army that kind of got sequestered to the left side of that third base now coming into the main base instead, and ByuN is just starting fires all over GuMiho's base. 2 siege tanks gearing up here in the main base. All the Ravens are at the front, so ByuN, his natural is mostly undefended. He's going to throw down as many auto turrets as he possibly can to try and hold on to this. Disabling the siege tank on the command center as well. Is ByuN going to have enough to actually hold this natural expansion? Keep in mind, GuMiho, he's lost 40-plus SCVs back at home right now. The SCV is getting the surround with the Marines and the Viking.
Whoa.
Barely enough to hold on.
Dude, that was a great game.
Wow,
that was really interesting. So, like, even with that final push, I'm like, wait a minute. If he had maybe, like, you know, 50% more Marines there, he probably just kills all the SCVs and maybe wins that game. But it's so funny. I had totally misread that game in this final moments. I thought, okay, ByuN is probably dropping too much, and maybe you know, GuMiho is mustered enough, but no, completely not the case.
I mean, the fact that GuMiho's force in the front, as you said, did not have enough Marines means that the SCVs, ByuN can sacrifice them in that position. They don't matter too much. He's killed 40 SCVs back at the home base of GuMiho and was potentially going to get even more. So just some incredibly tactical play coming out from ByuN. He maneuvered in those final moments so beautifully, knowing exactly when to come in with the drops of the Cyclones and the natural expansion, and then adding an additional drop in the main base in this really tight corner with 2 siege tanks that are so difficult to dislodge without Ravens. And GuMiho just kind of fell under the pressure. I mean, he was forced his hand to attack into the natural. It floundered, and that's ByuN taking a very decisive game number 1.
Gotta love TVT, man. You know, casting this alongside ASL, I gotta say, StarCraft 2 TVT, so much better.
ByuN, the blue Terran in the bottom right, leading the series 1-0 to his opponent GuMiho, the red Terran in the top left. And we were talking a little bit about this before the show Tasteless, about how these two are going to stack up, because I think we both kind of keyed them in as the 2 favorites to advance from this group. So many fans out here in the audience, by the way. Actually, a pretty big crowd for a round of 16 match, I must say, especially with like no Maru, no Dark.
Yeah. It's fun. I'm glad. I mean, there was a dark period where we didn't have audiences for a while during the COVID pandemic, so it's good to have everybody back in here and things are back to normal.
Dark period where we're stuck in a green room as well for that one season.
Oh, that's right.
I do not want to
Before
remember.
our GSL comeback story started.
Yeah, but going back to the point that I was making before, as we talked about at the beginning when we got into the studio today, is that one of the reasons why it feels like ByuN is kind of GuMiho's kryptonite in a matchup that GuMiho is one of the best in the world at executing TVT, is that GuMiho is a very cerebral player when it comes to strategy. He thinks out of the box. He has his own different perspective on how matchups should be played, how the Terran race should be played. And ByuN is kind of on the other side of that. He doesn't exactly play standard, but he's much more tactical as opposed to cerebral. He's very good at finding out how to get maximum value out of small groups of units in ways that you would not anticipate. Like coming into the mid game with that double Cyclone drop, with the 2 siege tanks lodging themselves into the main base there of GuMiho. And those are the kind of plays that, in a matchup as volatile as early game TVT, can just straight up kill you, as we saw there in game number 1. And so for GuMiho now coming in, I'm wondering exactly what adjustments he's going to make from game 1, if any. Is he still going to try to play his own game? Is he going to try and preempt some of these creative tactics and maneuvers that, ByuN is inevitably going to throw at him? I can't wait to see it as these Reapers battle. I almost thought for sure ByuN's Reaper was going to die there, but some nice control.
Wild, by the way. He's going to try to come in here and intercept. You can see GuMiho gets close and says, no, that's too predictable. So he decides to back up. We have the factory about to finish over here for GuMiho. ByuN a little bit ahead of him here as far as that development. And it's going to be a 3rd CC for GuMiho.
Yeah. So GuMiho, with that 3rd CC, tells me that he's just going to try and play a much more passive game and maybe just parry the attacks on the command center finish in the perfect moment, by the way. Able to actually garrison that SCV there, and even traded out here for potentially both Reapers. Oh, the Hellion wasn't able to get the last shot off. Luckily, this Reaper will be able to chase it down, but not before GuMiho does get a pretty good scout. Able to check both gas geysers, click them, see exactly how much has been mined, and he should know, based on that opening, that there probably isn't a 3rd command center for ByuN. Almost certainly not going to be one. And that's pretty much all the scouting information you need here as GuMiho, if you are actually able to glean that from the limited information he did get.
So ByuN is going to have some opportunities to come in here and start to drop. This medevac's almost done. He's going to have a Cyclone and 4 Marines, plus the Hellion and the Reaper out on the map. There's not any real muscle here, although I guess the Cyclone for GuMiho is going to finish. But we really want to watch that Cyclone here from GuMiho and see if he can keep that alive.
We're going to poke here in the main base, and ByuN will get confirmation that this is a 3CC opening. Even sees the Cyclone pop right at that moment, and that's going to keep ByuN in on the army position just a little bit here. And I'm wondering where that GuMiho Cyclone is going to be, because at this stage in the game, this early on, GuMiho, he cannot cover all of his bases. And so this Cyclone drop coming into the actual expansion, barely out-healing those 4 Marines with that medevac.
Just a little bit more sustain.
Yeah. And that's nice. I mean, these are the kind of small snowbally moves that can really play to ByuN's advantage if he's able to keep the pressure on. Anytime you trade 1 or 2 Marines for 3 or 4 Marines and some SCVs, especially against this 3 command center opening like this one, you're opening up future opportunities to come back and get even more damage done with future harassment or even a timing push.
Dude, this control is so good on both sides, by the way. Pulling the SCVs away at the last second, even keeping that Hellion alive for that long. Well, that Hellion really served as a great distraction to keep GuMiho kind of safe back at home. ByuN will probably come out with another attack pretty soon here. I do think there are still some opportunities for ByuN to try to come in here and really sink his teeth into the position that GuMiho is in. GuMiho really needs the game to go on for a long time, but since ByuN invested in an army off of 2 bases, I think there are still some moments he could try to take some fights. But if GuMiho can play the long game, he should be ahead the further the timer goes on in this game.
I'm wondering if he's going to get a chance to play that long game, though. Luckily for GuMiho, he is able to catch this Liberator, so not too much harassment will get done. ByuN turns around to attack it just once before he leaves. But ByuN is really committing to this push, and I've been watching the production tab. He's about to have 4 Vikings on the field to GuMiho's 1. So air superiority with 4 Vikings plus an albeit damaged Liberator is a lot to contest here for GuMiho. And if the Siege Tank creep is able to work here in the natural expansion, we're going to see at the very least a contain, and at the very best here from ByuN's perspective, a lot of infrastructure damage coming through on the side.
He's not quite in range of the ramp. In fact, okay, he can get that reactor. I wasn't quite sure. Sometimes when you get these big zoom out shots, it can be hard to tell. So, I mean, look, getting the reactor is actually pretty big. Reactors take forever to make. But the fact that he's going to lose the air fight, and now he can set this Liberator up here.
Yeah.
And if he can get over the ramp, okay, the tank is barely saved. You can one-shot Marines, as you can see there.
Yeah, one tank already fallen.
By the way,
GuMiho is repairing these 2 now.
Stim is almost done. Stim is almost done. He's going to land the Vikings, just a tank.
Stim is done here for GuMiho, but he only has 2 Marines on the map. I mean, these siege tanks are getting so much work in the Liberator, sieging up again.
ByuN is too good. That was crazy.
Some of the fastest TVT games we've seen, and you can see ByuN, he's pumped up about that one, man.
Dude, that was wild. You know, it's funny because TVT, I think it's so interesting in the early mid game, but like sometimes you just see one player so much better than the other. It's like, man, how deep does the rabbit hole go?
I mean, ByuN just had complete air control there, and GuMiho with a couple of missteps in the siege tank positioning, losing a tank at the ramp and then getting caught out of position at the natural. ByuN is not the kind of player that is going to let that opportunity go to waste, and he just basically mopped the floor with GuMiho in these series. I mean, they were fun, action-packed games, but they were over pretty quick.
Yeah, really commanding performance. We're going to go to an interview now with ByuN and see how he is feeling. Congratulations, he says thank you. Today, a lot of fans that you were, your play was crazy today. It looks like you're back in your prime from before. You look like 2016 ByuN. How do you evaluate your performance today? I'd say 8 out of 10.
Typical answer.
Yeah. I wouldn't say there's any specific game I would have given 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 today. JYP just said it was really impressive. So this time around, I came to the studio extra early to warm my hands up and get comfortable, and I think it paid off. Did you feel any pressure today? Yeah. Usually I always feel some pressure in any offline match. Usually I'm a little bit more nervous.
상대 선수보다 상대 선수의 경기력보다 더 나은 경기력이 돼야겠다 생각하고 제 베이스 실력을
So I thought even though I'm very nervous,
그래서 연습을 좀 연습량을 좀 늘린 게
I just have to focus and just not going well, guys.
Focus on his performance and try to carry himself to the quarterfinals. Yeah, that was a tougher one.
So a lot of fans want to see the glory days of the old ByuN come back here. What do you say to that? Wasn't that like 8 years ago?
2024년으로 10년이 아니라 2024년으로 조금
I haven't even looked through those VODs in a long time.
좀 괜찮아가지고 마지막 경기 빼면은 그래도.
But after this, the games today, I have a really good feeling about the season. So,
마음에 좀 쏙 들어가지고.
especially today. Yeah, I'm very happy with my performance. So anyways, yeah, I've got a good feeling for the season.
옆에 가서 사진을 같이 찍는데 형은 이러는 거 없죠라고 했던 그때 그날의 분위기. 현현 혹시 기억나나요?
그렇죠.
그럼
I remember seeing you raise up your championship title. We took a photo together. And then he says, this is Castor Park to JP. He says, you never had those moments, right?
이 자리를 빌어서 뭐 진영이 형한테 진짜 죄송하다는 말씀드립니다. 그렇게 또 됐으면 좋겠네요. 이번에도 뭐
I want to apologize to what I said to JYP back in 2016. But anyways, I want to hope. Yeah, let's see if I get that glory back from 2016. And then he said, actually, I'm going to say that to JYP. What is this interview?
I don't know, man.
Anyways, you've got a lot of international fans watching. Anything you want to say to them?
언제인지 기억도 안 날 만큼 오늘 칼퇴근하게 됐는데 이렇게 오늘 경기력으로 보여드린 것만큼
Can't remember when was the last time I made it to the quarterfinals, coming out first. But as you just witnessed today, our performance today has been pretty good. So be expecting another great performance here in the quarterfinals. I'll be practicing as hard as ever for the GSL. No, not just for the GSL, for the World Cup as well. So I'm going to try to bring primetime ByuN back. So there's also Maru in Classic. What do you think about them? You don't care, do you? No, I do care. I care a lot. On some level, I was almost thinking it'd be nice to advance second out of the group so I could avoid them. But anyways, I'm happy I saved my spot in the quarterfinals. Anyways, so if you're going to raise the trophy, no matter what, you'd have to defeat everybody. I know there was a point in time in my career where those players were below me because I was on top of the world at once. Well, anyways, congratulations, ByuN. He says thank you.
That was a long one, Tasteless. Good job.
That was my GSL finals, getting through that interview. Cool, guys. Coming up next, PvP. Let's get rid of one of them. Nightmare vs. Creator. We will be right back.
Make me
Welcome back, everybody. I love how the music is like, they change the intro every time we come back from break. And we're about to go into the elimination match. It's like, first step is showing up, now we're here. It's like we lost our first series.
Exactly, on point. The lyrics are matching up with the mood of the show.
Neither of these guys want to be here in this elimination match, let me tell you that, man. But
these guys both had pretty rough days, but I would say I think Creators was looking a lot rougher than Nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, feel like both of them are kind of underperforming today, and it's really coming down to a lot of scouting. It's sketchy.
There are some kind of fundamental features of the way you get intel in PvT that can be pretty tough, you know. But PvP is a very different matchup. I think Creator is probably a little bit better here.
Yeah, I favor Creator in a PvP against most people.
I think his
out here in
PvP is maybe like top 3 in Korea. I think he's really pretty solid. So we're gonna go on to hard lead.
Yeah, for game number 1, and I'm wondering exactly where these two are gonna look, because both their PvTs, as you were saying, were very messy against GuMiho, against ByuN. Not looking to see their best form, but let's see if they can catch some more momentum here.
One of them will.
The elimination match.
One of them will.
That is how it goes.
That's how it goes.
All right, Nightmare spawning here in the bottom right. Raider in the top left. By the way, I want to say it took me an embarrassing long amount of time to realize in like tournament matches where there's a mirror matchup that they always have one player go with the skin and one player plays with like the default pieces.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm kind of blind to these skins. I was never one of those guys that got in and is like, I really want the Tal'Darim set for my carriers and that kind of stuff. But it is cool. Now that I notice it, I'm like, yeah, it actually does make this game a lot more readable. That's great.
It really does. So we've got the first scout coming across the map here for Creator. Both sides are going for double gas. And it looks like Nightmare's probe is just now coming out, checking the bottom, I think looking for any kind of proxy that could be down there. And, you know, when you get inside like this, you're trying to see, okay, how many gases are there? Now, keep in mind, he's not mining from one of them.
Yeah, both players are going to throw down their cybernetics core. So, Nightmare, we'll see exactly how he decides to spend his workers right now. It seems like 15 on minerals and then just rallying into gas. That's about as standard as it gets in PvP. Second pylon on the main base as well. And now with his probe also entering the main base of Creator, he's going to scout, I'm guessing, more or less the same thing. And yeah, exactly, 15 guys on minerals and then rallying into gas. So mirrored openings so far, except for the scout timings. And PvP is one of those matchups where you really can't tell what's going to happen until at least the cybernetics core is done, and often until the first probe is shoot out of the base. So we'll see where these players go.
2 adepts versus 2 stalkers. Pylon coming down here on the low ground.
Both players.
Now, I would imagine they're going to expand, but sometimes you can sort of generate the imagery of an expand when you have no plans to do so.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't build that third pylon on the low ground, it just really telegraphs that you probably aren't going for an expansion.
Exactly.
So. Also with adepts, I mean, the potential for adepts coming into your main ramp and just ending the game by 2-shotting probes should they actually get into the main base.
It's probably one of the easiest ways to just lose a game at the start in StarCraft 2.
Yeah, you really want to have that vision with that low ground pylon, even if you're not going for a fast expansion. But Nightmare should be able to catch this probe here on the left side. And Creator, interestingly, actually allowed that pylon to finish in the natural expansion here of Nightmare. You don't see this all of the time.
Yeah, it's pretty rare.
But because he's going for this expansion and because Nightmare opened with 2 adepts, he just wants to see exactly what the flow is going to be, because I think Creator's read on this one is that Nightmare is probably gunning for an expansion. More likely than not, he is. Oh, nice move, by the way. Creator is keyed in on this, though. But Creator just wants to confirm for as long as possible that a Nexus is down or isn't down. So Adepts, ooh, one of them might get picked off. He has to really hightail it out of there, man. One more shot.
It does get the kill on that. Robo started, the pylon canceled just to make sure nothing gets in there. It's going to be a later expand here for Nightmare.
Yeah, quite late.
I mean, you are playing from behind here. Blink only just now starts, so there's not some kind of like a yin and yang that we normally see here in tech, right? Where it's like, well, you don't have an expand, but you do have this momentum with an attack. So I'm really curious how the next couple minutes play out, because I feel like this could be maybe the most straightforward thing we cast all day, is one guy expands ahead of the other, and there's no real, I don't know, tactic that you can use to like pry open this position, and that would just mean that Creator is going to be like in really good shape here. That Nexus is like under halfway done. Oh no, sorry, a little bit over halfway done for Nightmare, but like already we've got the Robo tech with the Immortal coming out here. The Robo for Nightmare just now starts. This all goes back to the MVP of this game so far, and it was the Pylon. We don't normally call out the buildings, but this time it's the Pylon that blocked that.
Yeah, Nightmare did get slowed down quite a bit, but the thing is, Creator hasn't really been pumping probes at full throttle this entire time. He's been trying to just increment them out, because he did scout a really fast Twilight. He scouted Blink coming research, or at least I'm sure that's what he assumes it's going to be. Is for a second I thought we were actually just going to trade those Adepts out, and I was like, that's not it, Creator. But I certainly do give the edge here to Creator, but anybody's game. It's 38 workers to 36. That is not too much of a difference right now. Creator with the probes on the, or the Adepts on the map. He's trying to find some kind of opening, and
is he too far out with this?
He
the
might
sentries
be.
And the Stalkers, like, what are you going to do with that right now?
I think he wants to try and pull some units away from the natural expansion and maybe pick something off here with this Immortal and some
well, I
force
mean,
fields,
if he
but Blink is
isolates
done.
this,
so there isn't too much, but this is one of these situations as well that, you know, Nightmare, if he is afraid of this push, if he doesn't know that there's, you know, potentially a Warp Prism coming behind this, he doesn't know exactly how committed this push is, Nightmare might just start slowing down his probe production a little bit, and that's the kind of thing that can assist Creator on the Macarena of this, trying to go into a third base. So from Creator's side of things, I'm loving this. He didn't really lose anything by moving out of the map like that. He did not overextend. He retreated just when the time was right. Potentially disrupted Nightmare's pro production a little bit, and behind it, taking the third base.
Yeah, once again, Creator staying one step ahead here. There is a third base being warped in at 6 o'clock right now for Nightmare. He's going to blink up into the main. He kind of just slid right by.
Yeah, actually surprised there isn't a recall here in the main base for Creators. Instead, just going to wait for that Immortal to pop, but that's a good number of probes going down already. We'll see exactly how Nightmare is going to try and play this one out. Just go for a recall, so should trade 2 Stalkers for 6 probes.
Yeah,
not that bad a trade.
That's fine. I'm a little surprised he actually managed to sneak right through there. He kind of almost hiding in plain sight, just ran up and got the blink off. So nice play there from Nightmare. That evens things out quite a bit. We've got the Forge coming down here for Creator. I don't think we've seen it start for Nightmare. We also had the Dark Templar, the Dark Shrine, excuse me. So,
I think it might actually be a DT drop coming in. Oh, Archons already.
Yeah, feels a little bit early, doesn't it?
Yeah. That is interesting. But I suppose it was already scattered by the Blink Stalkers in the main base, so maybe the original plan was to go for a DT drop or some kind of multi-prong harassment, but...
Well, I guess it's in a game that's this tight, it's probably not a good idea to just hope that, like, he doesn't have detection if he scouts it, so instead you just go straight into getting an Archon.
One of the nice things about going for Dark Templar like that, too, is it can sometimes force a kind of disproportionate response from your opponent, because just morphing in Archons to deal with, you know, Charge Zealots is a really powerful tool for your army composition. It's maybe not completely cost-effective early on, but it scales quite well, especially when those attack upgrades come in. But for Nightmare, on his side of things, now that he has Dark Templar on his mind, he has to start warping in photon cannons and bases if he wants to move out on the map, potentially adding in some shield batteries. He has to be more careful. It's taxing his multitasking, his APM, and also his economy a little bit, because he has to defend all these potential angles where DTs can come in. You see him adding in even more cannons right now in another expansion, whereas Creator is just building up an even more powerful economy and army right in the front of this. I mean, the composition he's going for, it kind of reminds me of a more old school style, just charge out Archon Immortal with no blink.
This is going to be a timing attack coming out here from Creator, I think. He just had all of his gateways finished. No, he's actually, well, hold on. Is he going to get the kill on this? Yes, he does. Okay, this is actually great Stalker control here. He's going to come in there and deny that. Uh-oh.
Come in. How much are we going to get? Oh, we're recalling an Observer, I think.
Well, here's the thing. That is actually a pretty big recall.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you kind of take that away from them later on. Now, we had all those gateways finish a little bit ago for Creator, so we should have a timing attack set up. Everything is also catching up right now for Nightmare. Nightmare's like 1 or 2 steps behind. I do think there's a possibility of a pretty smooth attack in here to the 4th base of Nightmare if he could set it up correctly here from Creator.
Yeah, that is possible. I think that the biggest issue with that push right now, should Creator decide to go for it, and if he has been keeping tabs, is that Nightmare is just a little bit ahead of him in upgrade timing. And so for Creator, you got to keep that in the back of your mind. I think if you're going to go for a push, you want to line it up with right when +2 is going to finish for you, because you do not want to gauge in a Charge Lot Archon Immortal fight against a mirrored composition down 1 upgrade, because I'm telling you, when you mix in those Archons, if they get like +2 and you have +1, you really feel it in a fight.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Although I am wondering, again, we didn't get to touch on the patch notes too much in the opening of the show, but what this match would look like if we had the Sentry change live. If you guys missed the PTR patch note, which is not live yet, by the way, it is just getting tested right now.
Right.
Sentries are getting like 50% or more additional damage against shields, which I think is really going to change the dynamic of PvP. So looking at fights like this one, or compositions like this one, it might be the last time for a little while, you know? Given the change in composition that I think might come down the pipe for this matchup, with Sentries going to be really elevating their power. And it is a fun composition to play with, and you are also right, Tasteless. We are really gearing up for that attack here with Creator. Now, Archon counts 7-4 right now in the favor of Creator. Both players are adding 1 more. A lot of Zealots here for Creator as well. The Immortal count is superior.
Dude, this arc is pretty sick.
Yeah,
this Nexus kind of gets in the way here. Great usage of hold position, good spreading. He's not quite in reach of that Nexus, but this counterattack is pretty huge as well. An overextension here with some of these Stalkers is going to be easy work for the Immortals. It's funny, the small counterattack is doing way more damage than the actual push here from Creator.
Yeah, and I think this fight's really going to tell the tale, as that Disruptor in the back line, if it can get a good connection on the red Protoss units, this could be great for Nightmare, as we have some more hold position micro. Creator is being very careful pushing into this position. He knows he has the better range firepower. That Disruptor's got to be so careful, man. All right, Nightmare seems like it's time to go. Engages. Creator now pushing forward Disruptors. We have 2 of them. First, both shots coming out. Gonna connect, kills 1 Archon, damages the Immortals. I don't know if that's gonna be enough though, Tasteless.
Yeah, he's definitely fractured this position. The Nexus is going to fall. Is it an overextension as he does it? I think it's not. I think he's basically got total control over this area down here. Now, Nightmare is expanding into the very bottom left.
And Nightmare also has +3 ground weapons upgrading right now. Creator is behind on probes because of that counterattack, even after taking down that 3rd base of Nightmare.
Yeah.
So the economy for Nightmare should be better for the foreseeable future. Plus, he has the upgrades. And
well, Nightmare's going to just push out.
I'm surprised by this push.
If this backfires, it's going to be horrible. But if he could pull it off, I just don't think he has the right unit. Stalker, Disruptor. It feels like you'd have to have the greatest Disruptor shots in the whole world, and then you still might not be able to take it.
Yeah, I think it's the kind of composition that gets better the larger the armies get. But right now in these small numbers, he's trying to catch Creator sleeping. Look at that Warp Prism micro, though. I mean, being able to keep these Immortals alive for Creator is so clutch because the Stalker composition for Nightmare is so high. He is really leaning in to the Stalkers and the Disruptors, and I love Nightmare going for a play like that with the 3 Disruptors, but that's a very dangerous maneuver because should Creator just pounce on that army, unless the shots are perfect, it's really dangerous for the blue Protoss.
So +3 is almost done. 5 Disruptors. He's coming up. The Warp Prism can do the pickups, easy mode.
A really good control here from Creator, but he has to be careful because if this Stalker Disruptor ball gets big enough, attacking into it can become very problematic here for this Charge Lot Archon Immortal composition. When I think of Charge Lot Archon Immortal, I think of more of a timing-based composition. Unless he's able to get some big arcs, some big surround, potentially hit these armies this army from multiple angles. Wait, what is this? Are you going for the probe line, Nightmare?
Oh, I love this.
He gets 9 of them.
Almost perfects that. Now, Creator's going to wrap around and try to intercept this. This army's going to function very differently when it's actually on the run and not trying to poke into these different areas. He's going to bait out some more of these Disruptor shots. Now, Keep in mind, disruptors actually are not good at retreating, like we're seeing right over here.
Yeah, but those stalkers, they have Link on cooldown, so 5 of them get caught by another Nova, and attacking up this ramp is going to be a really hard position for Creator, but luckily he has his eyes on that bottom left base. Engaging in, Arc a little bit better for Creator, but the ranged firepower here for Nightmare is insane. And we're starting to see those stalkers with +3 pairing with the disruptors so well in these tight corners. Oh, it connects with all 3 Immortals. Another disruptor shot going to try and find the stalker, doesn't quite get it. Another Immortal goes down. I think Nightmare just has enough.
Yeah, this is kind of crazy. Like, Creator, I think he had some cool ideas. He way overextended on this.
Oh, Zealot's coming in again from the left side, though. The disruptor attacks are on cooldown. If Creator is able to pick a couple of them off, that could turn the tide here, but no, Nightmare with his +3 Blink Stalkers. Just so much ranged firepower in these closed corners. Creator never able to get the surround that he needed. And we really see the tech paying off right now for Nightmare. 130 supply to 70.
The counterattack here from Nightmare is just, it's probably going to be too much. The bottom left Nexus, by the way, it's finally killed off. We didn't get it on camera, but it was taken out. And so it's 3 base versus 3 base, but there's just this army from Nightmare barreling towards the natural, now actually the 3rd base here. And I don't see any way that Creator could stop this. There are DTs hitting, but there's a cannon.
Oh, almost 6 Stalkers going down, instead just 3. But I mean, the army for Creator is basically non-existent. 4 DTs, 4 Stalkers. He's warping in a couple more gateway units, but there's nothing he can do that's gonna be able to stop. What is this, like 30 plus 3 Blink Stalkers?
So there's only 1 OBS. Yeah, like,
I mean,
this is fine.
The DTs maybe, but...
Uh-oh. Wait a minute.
He's trying to fight him again. Creator is conniving, man.
Yeah, this is... I'm impressed.
He's able to get a lot more damage done, plus being able to kill that base means that he can pick off some of these probes that are distance mining, but, you know, Nightmare, all he really needs to do is stabilize, and he's just pumping out observers right now, 2 at a time. And I think once he finally has enough obs and he moves across the map, Creator shouldn't have the time to be able to build a composition that can deal with this. Again, keep in mind, it is +3 for Nightmare to the +2 for Creator.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what he can.
Well
I'm
said.
watching this. It's like, well, eventually you have to deal with this army that's over here, right?
Yeah. It's going to come down to the obs. I mean, there isn't one here just yet. Actually, Creator blinking forward is able to kill the only obs. He's going to get the second one too, potentially, but no, the bait.
GG, great ending there.
Yeah. I love Creator just fishing for the obs. I mean, he made it work for a couple of minutes, but...
I love that dive through. At the end of the day, though, you just don't have enough Stalkers to deal with it. Observers are not that expensive. You will be able to crank out a few of them. Nightmare takes game 1 here, but this is a best of 3. Creator, I think a decent start. I think he struggled a little bit with engaging and knowing when to disengage. You know, there's this funny moment where he had the surround and he just like literally had nowhere near enough units. It's like
right.
Usually PvP fights pretty easy to cast because like one guy just has a much better angle than the other. But at that moment, he lost way too much of those disruptors and still committed.
Yeah, Nightmare played that really beautifully too. The Zealot counterattack on Creator's 3rd base got a lot of economic damage done.
Right.
And I think he transitioned into disruptors at basically the perfect time. The micro with them at the very beginning gave me almost a heart attack at the 3rd base.
Yeah.
But it was like walking into Immortals for a second.
It's kind of a funny thing. When you get like a really good surround, but you're starting to lose the fight, you can never recall out.
True.
There's no spot to grab. Guys, game 2 is starting up now. Let's do this.
All right, game 2, Nightmare versus Creator. Nightmare leading 1-0. Spawning is the blue Protoss in the top left. Down in the bottom right. Creator on the brink of elimination here in GSL. I got to say, Creator, they both played a really good game, but Nightmare just getting that perfect transition to Disruptors. It is so hard. I can't understand how difficult it is to walk that fine line between when to exactly make Disruptors and not die during that transition against a push. Because if he did that a little bit faster, maybe he doesn't have enough units and Creator can just completely like dominate that 3rd base, just melt it down and then come through with a counterattack, and you don't really have the macro behind it to defend there as Nightmare, but you get them too late, and then suddenly you're investing into the Robo-Bay, you're investing into these units that aren't able to actually manifest into damage. But Nightmare just thread the needle perfectly there. With that attack at the third base, he played it very patiently, was able to take some favorable trades, even though he lost the expansion, and really just an exciting game. And Creator kind of got stuck a little bit in his army composition with +2, just really wanted to end it, but the thing is,
you got to know when to back off, you know.
Yeah, but it is a fine line to walk in PvP, because at the same time, there is this large window where Nightmare, with this small ball of Stalkers and Disruptors, if he takes a bad engagement in the middle of the map, he's dead. The game's over. Creator wins it. So it's kind of both players just trying to, from Nightmare's side of things, try to buy enough time to get enough +3 Stalkers that you can actually hold on in a fight, whereas Creator is just looking for that opportunity to get the killing blow. That time, Nightmare was able to win it out, but man, what a PvP.
And, you know, Stalker Disruptor is kind of a funny thing, because I think we think of Stalker in big groups as kind of this ultra mobile thing. They're already faster than pretty much everything, and then the blink gives them that extra edge to get in or get out. But Disruptors are really not mobile. It's why we see them in Warp Prisms, or we see them in these sort of final end game, you know, comps in PvP. When you see Stalker Disruptor, the issue can be like, if they get into a position where they're hitting you from a couple different sides, there's really no way to save the Disruptors unless you recall.
Yeah, the Stalkers almost serve the same roles as Zealot would in a lot of other fights, where they just body block and they try to blink back and absorb as much damage as they can to give the Disruptors time to actually get value. It is fun. PvP, even in its current state, is one of my favorite matchups to cast in terms of, you know, mirror matchups.
Oh, yeah.
It really is a lot of fun. I think it's only going to get better with the patch notes as well. Oh,
I think so. Yeah, it's exciting times, to be honest.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I really hope that Sentry change makes it through. I think it could be. I'm thinking back to Stats' PvP games from previous seasons where he did, I think it was 3 Stalkers and 2 Sentries, or 3 Sentries and 2 Stalkers with an expansion, but like 5 Gateway units before Warp Gate, and it looks so solid. And now I'm imagining that with the Sentries having +4 versus shields.
It's going to be funny if that change stays, to try to get used to just casting those fights. Where I'm like, wait a minute, what? Is this like the beta of the game before it came out? I remember the Sentries were so good they would beat Mutilisks off. You just make a bunch of those and
that's
drive them out. It's like, well, that just doesn't look right. And it wasn't, but...
it was right. I played Protoss. I liked it.
I like when my Sentries could beat Mutas.
All right, well, both players macroing up. Creator a little bit ahead here on the expansion, but you know, maybe just one probe in terms of advantage there. Starting Blink a little bit faster is Nightmare. And relatively mirrored builds. Now, Creator did get a couple of Sentries out, so with that energy, before Blink is done, he might find some opportunity to get some damage done if he's able to section off a number of these units for Nightmare. And he's looking for that right now. Nightmare, he hasn't been super keen on warping in a lot of units, focusing on the probes, and he's going to come forward. That's going to be a high-energy Sentry getting taken out right off the gates.
A nice snipe over there. Pressure bounce. Blink, what, are they dead even on that?
I think Nightmare is just a hair ahead.
Okay.
Like one Chrono Boost ahead.
Oh, my God. Nightmare just catches these adapts. You know, when you're putting pressure on like this, it's so important you don't bleed off units like this. He does manage to get inside the main.
Maybe one probe,
but I don't know what, you know, how much of a difference this is going to make. At the end of the day, it's still going to get killed off. The Sentries can't get away. We know Blink was close to finishing here.
Yeah, a little bit of time left. Third bases started at almost exactly the same time, but we have about 20 more seconds here. So actually, there is a chance for Creator if he decides to take this fight. Nightmare, I think, recognizes that and is going to back off. Creator does have at least 2 force fields at his disposal. These are really funny fights.
Yeah.
I like the stage in the game a lot.
So the Robo is just about to finish here for Creator, and that's a big distance as far as development goes. And, you know, keep in mind, the Immortal is like the ultimate thing that counters the Stalkers.
Like I said, for Nightmare, he Chrono Boosted that at least one more time because it's 10 seconds to go here for Creator. So some pretty favorable trades in terms of control, but Creator just has a little bit more here. I think Nightmare was expecting to get way more done given the Blink timing. He put a lot of Chrono into that thing, but...
Yeah, that Guardian Shield turned out to be a really good call. Just gives you enough sustain. And remember, like I said earlier, that Robo finished a while back there. I don't see any Robo units being produced, though, here for Creator.
Second Observer is coming out.
Okay.
So. With just an early obs here for the red Protoss, as Things should quiet down a little bit here in the mid game, running, you know, effectively mirrored compositions, mirrored builds. I do give a slight edge here to Creator just because these early trades did go better for him and he still has some sentries.
More gates coming down now. With the Forges, we know there's a commitment here to a longer game.
Yeah, how many gates for Creator in total? Oh, okay, so they're both adding 4.
Yeah.
So I think we're both going up to 6 gate. That makes me think that this is likely going to be a relatively fast fourth for both players, but we'll see exactly how active they are going to be with warp-ins, because if you just keep warping in non-stop, I mean, 6 gateways, you can sink a lot of res into that. And actually, Nightmare is throwing down 2 more. And Creator, okay. All right. We're going full gateway man on both sides here. I like it. And actually, Nightmare is still only on 2 gas. Oh, this is interesting. This is kind of an older PvP style that the Koreans really liked. The Europeans generally, from the games that I have seen, tend to prefer something a little bit more high gas, more mass blink stalker. Actually, a lot of the European Protoss players, whenever they watch the Koreans do this kind of thing, because I watch their streams, they always kind of like rag on them for just making like mass sell it. It's like, yeah, this shouldn't work if your opponent plays right, but it's been sticking through it for a while, and if Creator does get caught out of position against this, Nightmare is going to have a lot of charge zealots. I mean, his economy is going to be absolutely huge. He's going to have so many more minerals than his opponent once this 4th base gets up and running. It is a little bit scary because unless Creator can get some number of Archons out, and unless he's playing in more of a defensive stance, then suddenly this charge zealot timing, should Nightmare decide to fully commit to it, could potentially end the game, because Nightmare, if he really does send it with just 2 gas, mass charge zealot, he's going to max out so quickly.
Let's also keep in mind that, you know, for Creator here, he was defending pretty well. His problem was really on the offense and knowing when to call it quits or not. Is he going to send it anytime soon now? It looks like we're both at about 130 supply. It doesn't feel like it's necessarily a moment where you need to send anything across the map, right? You can both just keep developing, taking your 4th base.
Yeah, it seems like he's playing this a little bit more passively. Going for that +2 ground weapons is actually adding a 3rd assimilator right now, so might not lean too heavily into the Zealots, but still, I'm just waiting to see if that army supply just starts to balloon here a little bit for Nightmare, but we will see. Creator is caught a little bit out of position right now, actually. These Stalkers are not where they want to be. Yeah, he's just going to recall those out.
Yeah, good call there. Even then, you know, can lose a little bit. Nightmare's going to back off here.
More Stalkers getting warped in. Nightmare is a couple paces ahead of Creator in the army upgrade tab, so should he decide to hit a +2 ground weapons timing, he will have the advantage for the majority of the fight. But adding 2 additional geysers in, I think that Nightmare is just kind of starting to pivot away from this composition. It seems like he's not really going to play the more all-in style.
He's throwing down a lot of cannons here as well. He actually might want to try to lean on where the 5th base is going to be. Turn that offense into a good defense. Basically keep Creator back at home, trying to protect himself.
Yeah, it's an interesting approach coming in from Nightmare for sure. Playing so low gas just to kind of establish map control, trying to lay the 5th base of his opponent. Lean into some heavier upgrades. I mean, starting +3 before +2 ground weapons is even done here for Creator. And then we'll see exactly what the transition is going to be, because I believe Nightmare is on 2, 4, 6 gases now. I mean, you can make a lot of Stalkers with that, but I think you can also float a little bit and add in some tech. We'll see exactly what he does. This might just be pure +3 Blink Stalker again. This time without the disruptors.
Yeah, could be. Well, you can see their expansion positions are mirrored right now. It looks like Nightmare wants to try to take a fight here in the bottom. We don't really have any counter-attacking just yet. I think there is some merit, by the way, to Nightmare backing off. Every time he gets spotted, he wants to try to reposition. Creator's ready to receive him. There's going to be a big Zealot run into the 3rd base. Here we go.
All right, both players with +2 ground weapons. We'll see some Link Micro coming in from Nightmare. Creator with most of the Zealots here in the front, because Nightmare sent all of his Zealots into the 3rd base of Creator, so this frontal army not quite as reinforced as it potentially could be, but the kiting is phenomenal. And now probes are going down for Creator. It's 81 workers to 60 right now, and that count is dropping.
I mean, he's wiping out all of the workers here. Another cannon warps in. Creator is like He's got this army over here, but it's it's not really doing anything. The Stalkers can play keep away all day. He's going to have a Warp Prism come up here. That might be a pretty desirable target. He tries to get it, almost takes it out.
And this Mass Stalker style coming in from Nightmare is just really paying off. Creator can't get the engagement that he wants.
I mean, there's so many more workers right now for Nightmare, and he can basically spend all day with these Stalkers kind of blinking away, getting damage in, running back out, just like that.
Yeah, these trades are quite cost efficient for him too. And as his Stalker ball gets closer and closer to max, and yes, it is just pure blink Stalker here for Nightmare, the maneuverability is going to be insane. And Creator, he's going into the Disruptor transition now, and it gets caught right here. One gets caught down, that one goes down too. No Disruptor shot's going to connect, and now Creator is caught out of position, and Nightmare is going to work his way into this choke.
This is wild. Oh, he's going to get the Warp Prism. No, he's not. Sorry. You saw it too. This is crazy. Another Disruptor's going to come out.
Man, I'm really worried for Creator. Nightmare is playing this PvP so well right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a master class in this sort of nimble, harass
he sees
Protoss.
it. Look at that obs, perfectly placed.
So smart. Another Disruptor's going to die here. Look at this.
I mean, Creator is just bleeding out supply right now so hard. 20 worker advantage here for Nightmare. And +3 ground weapons again to +2. I mean, Creator, his army, if he can force Nightmare into a corner, it is better. But the thing is, Nightmare's attacking him. You're never going to get that full engage here as Creator. You're never going to get your charge zealots on top of this. And Nightmare on top of that control is able to blink away from the Disruptor shot again, continuing to expand. It is soon to be a 6-base Nightmare to a 4-base Creator.
Yeah, and the thing is, Creator doesn't have any way, to make his own edge in this game. He's just on the receiving end of so many Stalkers all over the map. He already lost his Warp Prism earlier. Now, the blinks get even scarier because Nightmare can blink in and bite off a huge chunk of Creator's army and rinse and repeat. You can see Creator's trying to play catch-up here, but, okay, maybe he matches him with his own Stalkers, but what does this do to address the growth that we're seeing at the top right side of the map?
Now, there is a chance here for Creator. He's definitely up against the ropes, but because his worker count is lower, his maxed army is better. If he can take one good engagement, one really good engagement, maybe get one Disruptor shot, not quite there. That blink almost didn't connect. But one good engagement here for Creator with one round of Warpins, there is a chance that he's able to snowball it because he has so many Disruptors. And I think Nightmare recognizing that is starting his Disruptor transition on his side of things as well. But you got to be careful here as Nightmare. It is a 20 army supply deficit. And should things start to go Creator's way, he could actually blink forward onto this army. Because there are no Disruptors on the field for Nightmare just yet. They're only just now popping in his natural expansion.
Yeah, he's got him back here, though. I think he's probably okay trying to play the defensive game. Now, we got to watch as well. Can Creator actually grow on the map like this? Whoa!
Gotta be really careful here as Creator. Oh, that was a big hit! Another one coming in from the natural link, able to connect with one Zealot. Now Creator's going to go for a split push. He does have Nightmare up against the ropes, but there's no Disruptors on the left side, so Nightmare able to blink forward here. I'm liking this engagement right now for Nightmare, and with his huge bank, he's going to be able to warp in a ton of units to reinforce as well. Creator is not expanding behind this. He is basically all in. He has to win this fight, but the Disruptor shots able to take down another Archon. No Disruptors on the field here for Creator.
Yeah, he's going to blink in here once more. He's going to take this out. I just don't see this push winning. And at the end of the day, I mean, I don't see these expansions being taken out here. We've got some counterplay coming out. Snipes the Warp Prism immediately.
I mean, Nightmare just blinking everywhere he wants right now, whether it be forward, whether it be back into an arc. And he knows he just needs to ride this economic wave to a victory. And Creator, they have mirrored upgrades effectively, both with +3, but the army composition is just too good here for Creator, for Nightmare. Creator is going down, Nightmare is going up. And he's gonna fight GuMiho in the final match of the night.
This is gonna be a rematch, right? These guys played against each other at the start of the show.
Yeah, they did.
Very cool. Well, look, it's sad to see Creator lose. I actually thought he had a much better shot of getting out of this group, but I think the games speak for themselves.
Yeah, Nightmare played that PvP really well, both in game 1 and in game 2. It seems like he just has a little bit of a better grasp on this matchup right now. And for Creator, it sucks. It feels like he's always so close to doing so well.
Yeah.
But With Nightmare going up against GuMiho, you also have that storyline. Maybe he's finally going to break into the top 8. It's been a long time coming here.
Well, I mean, it would be an exciting story if Nightmare won here. It did seem like in the series that Nightmare and... Oh, hold on, guys. We'll be right back. I'll talk more about that after this break.
Go ahead and take all your winnings, but one thing that you got to know, this is only the beginning. You never know where you may go, so hold on to the highs while you're alright, cause you know you're gonna come down, just a matter of time, and you will find everything comes back around, comes back around, comes back around, back around, comes back around, comes back around. So hold on to the highs while you're alright, cause you know you're gonna come down, just a matter of time, and you will find everything comes back around. So hold on to the highs while you're alright, cause you know you're gonna come down, just a matter of time, and you will find everything comes back around, comes back around, comes back around, back around, comes back around, comes back around.
can't accept the loss, I'm hard-headed. There's a little bit of madness to my method. Many falling off that fine line that I'm treading. I risk anything to be great, and I'm not letting nobody rob me of my victory. Number one, that's what I'm meant to be. When by any means, only thing that makes sense to me, I can make nice or make history. I got that dog in me, yeah. Turn me up. Big energy, got the crowd going nuts. I got that dog in me, yeah. Any up. I take on anyone. I don't need a one-on-one. I got that dog in me, yeah. I'm talking all bite, no bark. I could rip your squad apart. I got that dog in me. So what's up? Yeah. So what's up? I told her move over. Enough of that mediocre. I've been the man since cruising around in the stroller. I got ice in my veins like a cut in Minnesota. Why not show you how I'm built? Come a little closer. A lot of heart, been smart. Aura got a glow. We can restart, give head start, still get the same result. I'm about mine. Don't you get it confused? I'ma win again. Yeah, that's all that I do. I got that dog in me, yeah. Turn me up. Big energy, got the crowd going nuts. I got that dog in me, yeah. Any up. I take on anyone. I don't need a one-on-one. I got that dog in me, yeah. I'm talking all bite, no bark. I could rip your squad apart. I got that dog in me. So what's up? Yeah. So what's up? They don't get it. I'm the type to break through the door, tear down the wall, start up a war. They don't get it, it ain't clicking. I know you follow me, you think that you might, but you never seen a bitch like me. I got that dog in me, yeah, turn me up. Big energy, got the crowd going nuts. I got that dog in me, yeah, any up. I take on anyone, I don't need a one-on-one. I got that dog in me, yeah, I'm talking all right.
Yeah, the first step is showing up, now we're here. Yeah, the first step is showing up, hit them chill. Yeah, the first step is showing up, now we're here. We're blowing up, hit them chill.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time to close out Group C. This is a rematch from what the group started out with. It's going to be GuMiho versus Nightmare again. GuMiho did win this the first time around. It was a shaky best of 3, I guess is one way to put it. But it was also looking a little experimental from GuMiho. I'm curious now that, you know, we're at the very end of this group. What kind of GuMiho are we going to see? Is he going to be doing some more wacky builds, some builds we probably won't see for the rest of the year from any Terrans? Or is he going to have that traditional play like what he did in Game 3 versus Nightmare, where he just sort of played clean, executed well, and won?
Yeah, I imagine it will be unpredictable, but not quite as zany as what we saw from him in Game 2. I don't think we're going to have 3 Ravens and no medevacs at the 8-minute mark.
Yeah. or
anymore.
3 racks stim with no medevacs. Anything weird like that? Probably not. Now, Nightmare's looking a lot better. He seems to be a lot more warmed up. He was able to hang and play some late-game games that were pretty awesome to see, but I'm really going to be more focused on the early game here from GuMiho and what he's choosing to make and not make.
Yeah, and as for Nightmare in this series, a couple laps of judgments in terms of having vision in the right place, really come back to bite him. If he can tighten that vision up here in this series, he might go to the round of 8. Okay, GuMiho spawning in the bottom left. It's the blue Terran Nightmare. The top right, the red Protoss.
Okay, so we ended up not having the marathon of TVPs that we thought we might end up getting, but we are back on them. I did enjoy our mirror matchups here.
Yeah, they were fun. Nightmare played so well, by the way, in that PvP.
Oh, yeah.
I was very impressed.
I really enjoyed the games, to be honest. But this also means that GuMiho was able to circumvent having to show a lot of his builds. Same is true for Nightmare, right?
Yeah.
You don't know who you're up against next, but, you know, the fact that this had not become the deep dive of the this match we thought it might be means both players can come into this having more builds still up their sleeve.
Mm-hmm. Not just here, but also in the round of 8. One of them will be advancing.
Yeah. So that's important to note.
And thinking back to the first series that they played, of course, GuMiho kind of did a wonky build that didn't seem particularly good against anything in Game 2 and paid the price for it. So we did go all the way to a map number 3, but I mean, we think back to the first map of that best of 3 on Site Delta in Nightmare. If he spotted the double Medivacs moving out cross map, if he spotted the third base taken by GuMiho at the linear third, if he had just a couple different changes in observer placement or was more aware of where his opponent was maneuvering, I think that game might be a win for him. I think Nightmare absolutely can take game number 1. Game number 3 is same story. He loses an obs to a scan. The second obs comes in, and it misses the siege tank move out by a hair. GuMiho sieges up right in front of his natural expansion. And with the build that Nightmare went for, with so much production, I think it was 3 gateways and a robo, all in the natural, that's basically game over. You need to be able to kite that army across the map, buy yourself some time, get into a better army position, and not let them immediately start sieging down your natural. So for Nightmare, I know that he lost 2-1 against GuMiho in that first series, but I don't think it's necessarily indicative of how this series is going to go. He played really well against Creator, and I'm very curious what he's going to come up with here in this series. Already mixing it up, going for a Stargate in game number 1.
Yeah, I certainly don't think that Nightmare is supposed to be dying to like a standard timing push here. You're completely right about the fact that, like, look, the Observer just missed it, and especially in TVP, excuse me, it really is a matchup that comes down to like just a couple seconds of knowing ahead of time. Makes all the difference in the world. We've got the Phoenixes coming down right now.
Yeah.
And again, as you said, State, this is a very different looking Nightmare this time around. He clearly came in here with a lot of different openings as well.
I'm curious if we're going to see a Robo come down here from Nightmare, as he just barely is going to miss getting that SCV in the natural expansion. Okay, he does notice. I was getting scared, man. It's like a horror film.
Okay, so he is going to be able to get rid of this one Widow Mine over here. And that's going to be that. We've got a Cyclone coming up next here for GuMiho. The Phoenixes are going to continue to be made for the time being.
I'm wondering if we're going to see a Robo come down or if there will be a relatively fast third base. I'm leaning towards a Robo,
there
potentially
it is.
After the,
you called it.
Next Phoenix, because this is something that we've kind of been seeing from, I believe Stats and Classic both mixed this in a little bit in Group B, if I'm not mistaken, against Bunny. I think it might have been both of them, or maybe it was just Classic. It's a week ago. My memory's fuzzy. I'm getting older, but it worked quite well. This Phoenix competition to establish early control, especially against a player like GuMiho, who was really happy to send Cyclones or Widow Mines and Medivacs cross map or go for Hellion drops or all kinds of crazy harassment antics early on. Phoenix is kind of the unit that you want to deal with that if you can get yourself in position, because it's going to go down. I don't think you're going to trade that one out.
Dude, that was so painful to see. I was about to mention this, like, with Phoenixes, you really need to keep the bulk of them alive. If you start to drop Phoenixes here or there, like, one Phoenix doesn't do anything.
They're
it's
very
like one
expensive.
hand trying to clap. It just doesn't work.
I like that, yeah.
And so there may end up being just like a really good timing attack. Actually, timing attack is almost like giving it too much credit. You might just be able to take what you have and just kill them because they're lacking.
Some sneaky adepts right there.
Some sneaky plays. Okay, he's going to back up. But yeah, we have Stim coming. We have another Raven about to be made. We have so many Cyclones out already with 2 more. They're basically coming out in pairs. So
yeah, Cyclones are really good against Phoenix openers in general. And I think that's one of the reasons why we have Nightmare. He is going to get this Raven. So that's the catch he was looking for at the beginning. Not quite going to get this one. And might actually lose another Phoenix there. Yeah, 2 Cyclones popping out at just the right time. That does hurt, but Phoenixes, they aren't especially useful in a situation like this one where your opponent is going basically mass Cyclone on 3 bases here in the early game. Of course, GuMiho's not going to stick with it. He is adding in additional barracks, but The Phoenix, not going to be the unit that you want to deal with this. They pair really well with Colossi, but this is the game where you kind of want to go more into charge, more into Immortals, and try and play a bit of a more gateway style. And so that is why we see Nightmare stopping Phoenix production, adding in 4 additional gateways, going for the Templar Archive. And I like this because it seems like he's kind of thinking on his feet. I don't think he imagined the game going exactly like this. Is the Adepts actually going to get into the main base? That barracks did not land in time. At least 4 or 5 SCVs should go down here.
That's got to be a surprise when you get up. There you go. The depots are up, but the barracks isn't landing.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the pitfalls of having your production like that in the front is eventually that factory is going to lift. And Nightmare just had the sense of timing to go for it. And oh my goodness.
Oh man, are you serious?
Yeah, the Phoenix control not quite it here for Nightmare this game.
He sent the workers back too fast too. He lost some there as well.
Yeah, and he has to, if he wants to kill that Raven, he needs to make another Phoenix. It's painful. A little bit of misplay.
Well, I'm just worried that, again, like GuMiho might just be able to come in there and kill him because of the number of units that have been taken out here.
Yeah, I think if there is going to be a killing move from GuMiho, it'll be much later because the Cyclone Army, while it is strong early on, it doesn't scale particularly well, and Nightmare has basically finessed his army composition into the exact counter. He's going for Immortals, he's going for Charge Zealots, he's even adding in Archons. He's not even going for Storm. He wants pure bulk with this army, and actually with GuMiho caught out of position right now with a handful of, actually the bulk of the Cyclones all the way up in the top left. One big warp in here from Nightmare in the main base. This could start to spiral out of control here for GuMiho, and yeah, he's catching wind of this aggression right now, but is he going to be ready for the main base drop? There actually isn't a supply depot to spot for this, so he is completely unprepared.
Yeah, he's got the Marauder and the Marine out here. Meanwhile, there's going to be a push coming up here. A pretty bad force field actually trampled by the very Zealot there from Nightmare. He's going to drop that Archon. And now, dude, this is so bad.
Yeah.
He's just losing his core comp. I think Nightmare...
So he was able to kill a lot of SCVs in the main base because GuMiho just completely focused on wiping the army. But I'm not sure that was the best. I feel like Nightmare could have disengaged there at the third and still gotten a lot of damage done here in the main.
You got to be able to right-click away. And now I'm a little bit afraid because, especially with those Immortals all taken out here, you really don't have a lot of the important stuff that you need to try to take these fights.
Link Stalkers are really good against his composition, though. Should Nightmare be able to slowly kite him back to the other side of the map. And let's keep in mind, Nightmare, yes, he did lose a lot of high-value units there. He lost Archons, he lost Immortals.
Sure.
He lost a good chunk of his Zealots, but he was a substantial number of workers up. I think almost 20 workers up at one point. So his economy is quite strong back at home, and just 1 or 2 big warp-ins. And it's going to be tough for GuMiho because a lot of his army supply right now is caught up in Cyclones. He still has 5 of them. The bio count isn't that great just yet, and we also only have 3 medevacs. So the standing army for GuMiho is not too formidable just this moment, but my worry is how this army is going to scale over time because we still have no Templar on the map, despite the fact that Storm is getting researched. I think the first one is getting warped in just now. Whereas GuMiho, really, he just needs to pump bio and eventually mix in Ghost, and he's going to have a really solid composition.
Yeah, I do like the harass play. This is a smart move. It doesn't seem like GuMiho, as you were saying, State, has really built up the kind of army that can maybe take a big fight just yet, but he is moving out. He has got this big position. It looks like it's going to kind of snake its way up to 12 o'clock, and I think the Observer completely missed it. So there's a chance he can just spring an attack over to this natural base, and Nightmare might not be ready. He's going to scan. Now, there's no siege tanks here, but there are Widow Mines.
Storm is done, though, and these 3 medevacs are very low. Very low on energy. We'll see if these storms can connect. GuMiho now catching wind of that. He's going to lose 1 more medevac, retreating back. That was a really good storm. I feel like that storm was better than it had any right to be, as a ton of these Marines took massive damage. Medevacs do not have the energy to fully heal these things up, so GuMiho has to retreat. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw 1 or 2 more blinks forward. Yeah, that's every medevac down. GuMiho's medevac count reset down to 3, and when you play bio compositions like this one, the medevac count is really what carries you.
Oh, yeah. You need to accumulate enough of them that, you know, they're all able to recharge over time, and each infantry unit basically has its own personal healer.
Oh, what a
Another
storm!
sick storm there.
And these Zealots here at the third base, GuMiho is bleeding out a little bit. These have been some very favorable trades here for Nightmare. He is doing a good job of stabilizing.
I gotta say, Nightmare is looking a lot stronger in this series so far. I know we're only into game 1 in this rematch, but again, it's always GuMiho with, like, you know, lacking in these medevacs. Unusual unit comps are not leading to advantageous positions as we get into, you know, that mid game, and now we're deep into the late game here.
Warp Prism coming into the main base here of GuMiho. A lot of minerals in the bank, so that's going to be a big Zealot Warp in once again. And there actually isn't a rally here. It's all in the natural expansion. And it's not very much either. That doesn't deal with all of these Zealots, so even more SCVs are going to go down. GuMiho, after that initial drop in his main base, was down maybe 20 workers and eventually was able to claw his way back down. But oh, he's hitting the third base too. Man, Nightmare is playing really well right now. 15 more SCVs, and we're not done yet. This is pretty crazy. GuMiho has been caught so badly out of position, and his army in the middle can't even contest the force of Nightmare because there's only 2 ghosts. They've already been using a lot of EMPs, so they're relatively low on energy. The 4th Templar had been split, so he hasn't been able to find the money EMP during all of this. And Nightmare's going to lift back into the main base. There still aren't enough reinforcements to deal with this because GuMiho's supply blocked. He lost depots.
Yeah, I mean, this is such good tactical player from Nightmare. He's going to hit this position as well. So many workers have been picked off. Now this command center over here at the top. The Marauders are going to come down here to try to save this fight. The Immortals over on the outside for a little bit. Pretty bad Storm, only connecting onto 1 Marauder back there.
Second Storm is good, though, able to connect with a lot of bio. Liberator gets linked on. 10 more workers go down as that Warp Prism, I think, has finally been cleaned up in the main base. And Nightmare, he is going to bleed out a lot of units right now, but he's already starting a transition into double Robo Colossus. And I feel like Nightmare right there, he killed so many SCVs. I think GuMiho was at 70 plus before that engagement. He's still not mining from his third base. His main base gases are only just now getting saturated again, so he's floating a ton of minerals. The 4th base, I don't think that one's fully saturated either. Nightmare's economy, a lot better than GuMiho's right now. And if these 4 Templar that he just warped in are able to get enough energy for 1 or 2 storms, I don't think the ghost count is going to be high enough to really deal with them. It's still down at 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy, the pressure that he's put on him. GuMiho is finally going to have his turn on the map. He has a lot over here. The Colossi are obviously going to be a real threat, and this army from GuMiho can't really do anything. At the same time, though, when you have Colossi in army formations like this, you could just have another group move somewhere else on the map and just not engage the Colossi at all.
Another Zealot run by. Some nice micro there from GuMiho. Only going to lose a couple of SCVs.
Oh, the Observer.
Oh, that EMP. Oh, I feel like Nightmare was almost baiting that one. He was just waiting for the Ghost to send in the shot, and then he pulls the Templar away. Only one of them gets EMP'd. Nice counterattack here from GuMiho. Going to try and pull Nightmare apart. Unfortunately, the army on the left side isn't really in a position to capitalize on this just because there are so many fires on the map. GuMiho had to deal with another run by at the third base. And he will be able to find this Nexus, get the cancel, so he is going blow for blow. And slowly but surely, he is working his army supply all the way back up.
It's kind of wild, actually, because if you didn't have the supplies on screen, like for most of that, it looked like Protoss was just dominating, but over time, GuMiho just has mustered this like maxed out army.
I feel like a lot of it is because Nightmare is making some very expensive units. He has 3 Colossi, 2 Disruptors, 4 Templar on the field right now. He's really investing into these. Now, these Stalkers are going to get warped into the main base by recall.
I don't know if that's enough Stalkers to fight this army.
With a Zealot warp in, I think it should be. Oh, there's a Templar, too. I love that addition.
Yeah.
Double Storm getting rained down.
Dude, he actually dodged those shots so well. He's going to kill that Templar Archives. Now he's going to hit this other spot over here. He snipes a Templar there as well.
Got some good plays on both sides. Finally, the Zealots coming in. Link should be off cooldown, so I wouldn't be surprised if those medevacs all got cleaned up here in the main base. Nightmare?
Get him out of there.
Yeah, okay, well, he is going to get 2 of them. Okay, he will get all 3. Scared me for a moment. I thought they were going to get away, but man, GuMiho and Nightmare really going all out here in game number 1.
Yeah, this is already such a great game.
Okay,
he's going to try to attack in again. Did he actually kill the Templar Archives, by the way?
I actually didn't catch that.
I didn't catch either.
He might have. I don't see any in the production tab.
There aren't more making, just because it's really the Templars that make it impossible to kind of...
No. He still got it.
Okay.
One more just got warped in. Yeah, that would be disastrous if the Templar Archives got taken out there because GuMiho, without setting up that 5th base with the high vest being gassed just yet, He is stretched a little thin because right now, you know, he's trying to get all these starport units out on the field. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a second starport in production, if not done already, to start adding in more Vikings, potentially even Liberators and Medevacs to deal with this Protoss army, whereas Nightmare is basically building all of the splash damage in the world right now. He's got a healthy number of Colossi, 6 Disruptors, only 1 Templar, but looking at his minerals and gas count right now, I would be surprised if he didn't get a ton more in a bit.
It's still GuMiho with this double army split, basically trying to figure out which side of the map is going to be weaker, and then come in and hit that. We've got more starports coming down, and got a fusion core here as well.
I'm thinking it's just going to be for Liberator range. Whoa, big connection right there with one of the Disruptor shots. It seems like Nightmare might have been a little bit ambitious, but luckily able to retreat with all of these Disruptors. In fact, 2 of them still have shots charged, I believe. But there's another attack here on the left side. Oh, there was not enough support for those Colossi. Every single one of them is going to get cleaned up, Tasteless.
Oh my God.
Oh, what a
the
decisive
supply is
moment.
just plummeting here. GuMiho ripping Nightmare to shreds here. A couple more Disruptor shots. I don't know if it's going to matter.
No.
Yeah, he's just able to dodge these, and what looked like it could have been a close game at the very last minute here is a complete domination from GuMiho. GG. Wow. 1-0 right now. Terran winning again.
Man, I am surprised that Nightmare fell apart so hard right there in those final moments because,
well,
with his army composition, yeah, there wasn't too much of a meat shield in terms of gateway units. There was still only 1 Templar, even though he was floating gas. But you would think if those armies were properly split with, say, 3 Disruptors on one side, 3 Disruptors on the other, it's going to be really hard for the Terran to engage on both fronts the way that GuMiho did. But unfortunately for Nightmare, the army on the left side was just a little bit lax. It was mostly Stalker Colossus from what we caught at the tail end of that fight. And there were so many Marauders. They just completely ate through that force. And after a really back and forth game number 1, where Nightmare played his best PvT of the night, in my opinion, I mean, that was looking really good. GuMiho is still up, 1-0. 1 map win away from going to the round of 8.
I'll tell you something, man. GuMiho, he has these weird, shaky games early on, but he does end up in the same place if the game goes on long enough. He just seems to have the perfect comp. Again, a lot of Cyclones back there. I wasn't sure when he was going to stop. It seemed like he should have pumped the brakes a while ago with that, but Nightmare also going with that Phoenix play. I don't think we're going to see another build with that here, or if we do, it's going to have to be with much better Phoenix control, not losing them. Anyways, guys, game 2 is ready.
All right, GuMiho on the top left, leading the series 1-0. I was thinking about, you remember when, which player was it that did the pose with like the square? The football, it was Sue, yeah. I was thinking about that when we were looking at the poses again, and I started going to like the football terminology where you say nil instead of 0.
Oh, yeah,
Where's that cricket? I don't even know. I'm not a sports guy, fellas. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I don't have those computer games, so that's not in my Steam library.
we're true nerd. We're nerdy nerds, man.
Well, I want to see a cleaner early game here from Nightmare. He lost, I think, 3 Phoenixes in 3 different moments in game 1.
Yeah, he lost every single Phoenix, and they were not valuable losses either. He got, I think, 1 Raven in total with them.
They were picked off like the X-Wings in the first Star Wars movie. Like, one by one, they were shot down by Darth GuMiho.
Yeah, it was pretty abysmal. Even the Phoenix that caught the Raven on Nightmare's side of the map died to auto turrets. It wasn't able to get the kill. That Raven, I think, went all the way back home, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, it was not the best Phoenix control we've seen so far in this season of GSL. I would be kind of surprised if Nightmare went back into it because that was really not valuable. But there were a lot of good plays that were made. And in fact, even after he, you know, really overextended in the early game where he lost those, what was it, 2 Archons and 2 Immortals and significant number of gateway units too, when he went for that first big drop in the main, he rebounded quite well.
Yeah, you know, Nightmare has a hard time closing the deal, PvT. It truly is hard to advance. The same way, hard to advance onto the Terran. The same way it's like tricky to not overextend when the Terran's right outside your base. It's the same story. I mean, because the stim units are so fast, you can kind of reconfigure the setup and try to get a more favorable position. And it's worked really well for GuMiho. He is going to get that Stargate. I was really confident he probably wouldn't do this again. But let's see if he wants to just try to do this and do it right, where his units at least do what they're supposed to do.
It could also be the kind of situation where Nightmare is looking at that game one. He's like, my Phoenix play is much better in practice than it was in that match. I still have this build up my sleeve. Let me show what the Phoenix can really do. Because when we were casting the PBTs before, the Phoenix play looked really, really high tier in this matchup. Just pairing with the Colossi so well, eventually going into higher tech Stargate units. Oh my god, that was so good by Nightmare.
Yeah, that was really good. Really impressive.
I wasn't play-by-playing it because I'm like, oh, it's just going to die. But that was about as much value as you could possibly get with that Adept in that situation. He's going to come back. He gets the other Widow Mine. And he's going to shade up into the natural and confirm the add-ons. He's going to get this SCV. This is crazy. Right, the SCV barely survives, but this 3 Adept opening, even a 4th Adept coming in from Nightmare.
And he's going to pocket the Phoenixes for the time being. So when these come in there, he wants them to do really a lot of damage. And by the way,
wow,
you got to be careful because when you're going up against somebody who's making Widow Mines, there's a lot of great spots you can hide these Widow Mines. It feels like it's calmed down a little bit from a couple of years ago where people were like just putting it right in the middle of the map, trying to just get in the path of, like, let's say an Oracle or Phoenix is moving out. But you do have to be careful because a couple Widow Mine shots and your entire Phoenix fleet is wiped out.
The thing that Nightmare's been doing really well though this entire time is he's keeping the Marine count low. It's all the way down at 5. He's been able to trade a lot of these. I think he might have even he might have barely caught that lift up with the tail end of the Shade. I'm not sure if he did. Yeah, he did. Nightmare's going to intercept. This is huge. If he's able to find this medevac, does GuMiho know? It seems like he's a little bit, he's being very careful about this so right now.
Come at me.
I think just let the Shade finish. And if you spread the Phoenix, they can't kill. Oh. I mean, the Widow Mines, they don't the Widow Mines, they don't one-shot the Phoenix. If he spread them, I think maybe he just didn't want to trade the whole damage out. But
is he going to get out of here? I think he will barely get away.
Yeah,
He's
will.
got a boost he can pocket. He's got a Viking. Not that the Viking would beat all these Phoenixes, but it's like just enough extra damage. He's going to veer away, but the Phoenixes are... Oh, no, he's going to go back, actually. He's going to regroup. It looked like he almost wanted to bank away and maybe try to regroup.
Yeah, for a moment there, I really thought Nightmare was going to go in with a Phoenix and just tank the shots by splitting them and go for those guaranteed kills on the Widow Mine, but I guess he just values the HP on these Phoenix way more than getting, 3 Widow Mine kills, which... That is a reasonable approach to have on this one. You don't have to go for the finish there, but that means that GuMiho is going to have these 3 Widow Mines still with this army. This is a pretty scary force, actually. Phoenix does not deal with this particularly well. There's even a siege tank coming out.
Now, if he can get a foothold over here, it's a lot harder to take full advantage of these Phoenixes. He gets the Widow Mine burrowed. One's picked up. Another one's picked up.
One. Not a bad engagement here for Nightmare to start things out. Now he's using the maximum amount of range on these Stalkers just to try and pick away. Every single Widow Mine has been defused at this point. That one Cyclone on the right side, very low on HP. These are not Stim Marines. So there is a chance that Nightmare's able to get more done, but he does not want to try and breach this position right now with that siege tank.
Now he wipes the Nexus. So this is already a big victory. Keep in mind that the command center at the 3rd is going to finish. There's another Nexus that's been made north of the 2nd base.
The thing is, I don't know if this army gets home tasteless.
Yeah, well, that is the thing. Like, it's certainly not going to be easy. He might have to lift the Vikings back off. He's got more Cyclones. I think what he can actually do is just meet back up in the middle, rinse and repeat.
Yeah, I feel like Nightmare is missing an opportunity right now to go on this Terran army as it retreats. If those Stalkers continue to chase, I think he didn't expect GuMiho to just absolutely book it out of there so quickly, because I think a lot of those units should have gotten trade-added out favorably for Nightmare in that situation, but instead GuMiho able to regroup back at home. Now establishing this 3rd command center. 4 more barracks in production here for GuMiho as well. Even adding in a 2nd Raven, man. He's been making so many Ravens today.
Yeah, it's clearly a style he's very comfortable. Oh my God, he's actually coming here.
Oh no.
Oh, this is such an overextension here by Nightmare. And those Cyclones are so punishing when you overextend like that. He juggles them with the the medevac, and now it's going to be the Colossus stuck on the outside, and another shot that goes down. I don't know if we're going to be in this game for much longer, State.
That was a disaster from Nightmare. I can't believe he doubled down and tried to go back in again for that siege tank. He lost so many Stalkers there. He lost the only Colossus, I think. There might be one that just popped out of the Robo. Yeah, there is. So it is going to regroup here, but it's got it disabled. It's disabled.
Yeah, and that's not going to do anything to help keep this Nexus alive. Stim, by the way, I didn't even realize it wasn't done. He was dominating so hard here. The Nexus is going to go down. And so this is the second time the third base has been wiped out, where Nightmare can't even get any of the perks of it.
And luckily, Nightmare is able to catch some of the reinforcements coming in from GuMiho, but I mean, barring some kind of miracle, he needs a really good engagement. Good focus fire right now with the Colossus on the Marines. He is going to get a favorable trade. He will only lose one of those Phoenix, and that's a desperately needed win for Nightmare, but I'm wondering if it actually is enough. He's going to try and retake the third base. This is the third Nexus Nightmare is trying to plant down to establish that third. The standing army right now, 2 Colossi, 5 Stalker, 1 Phoenix for Nightmare, to a GuMiho who is getting ready to just get entrenched because he knows how safe he is. He just has to hold on at home. He's building missile turrets to protect the Widow Mines from Phoenix lifts. He's going to have a lot of detection. He is pumping the siege tanks. I think he has, what, 1 or 2 out already? Adding in another command center. I mean, he's just going to macro out at home because he knows that for the next, what, 2, 3, maybe even 4 minutes, he has the economic lead. He's only going to scale better than the Protoss.
Well, it's going to be so tough here for Nightmare because he's lost all these key units that, you know, the only way to get those back is with time, right? I mean, anything that's wiped out from the Robo, if you lose a whole bunch of those, it takes so long to reaccumulate that. He's coming in here. He's still doing more damage. This is a pretty big supply lead. If Nightmare can fend this off, it might be a pretty big reset where he's got a shot. But, you know, this distraction medevac just coming through here and picking up and getting damage, it's allowed enough time here for... Oh, my God, hold on. I was going to say it's allowed him to set up a position down here, but it looks like he might end up getting stuck down here.
I think he might have been expected that... God, I really fumbled that. I think he expected that Blink was done, but it isn't just yet. So he kind of cut his losses and left some units down there at that 4th base. Whereas in reality, he could have just lifted both of them off and gotten everything out of there scot-free. But, I mean, even after that, it's almost a 50 supply lead here for GuMiho. 22 of that's in workers. GuMiho up in expansions as well in a matchup where, I mean, Nightmare would really like to be ahead in bases here as the Protoss going up against the Terran, but I mean, GuMiho, his macro is just so good.
That observer there spotting this makes it a lot easier for Nightmare to set up. In fact, Nightmare's going to try to push out over here. And that's going to let GuMiho, maybe he's going to destroy the rocks and try to go to the bottom again. There is a drop that's kind of looming in between the 4th base and the main base.
There is a Phoenix trying to clean that up, though. So eventually GuMiho is going to have to commit it to one location. I love this Zealot run by here by Nightmare. Picking off a couple SCVs, getting a couple of units. Even the Zealots aren't trading out too cost inefficiently.
Yeah, the Zealots aren't getting that much done. That was like 3 SCVs. That's less than the cost of the Zealots themselves. A drop comes out. He takes the Phoenix out again, and that means that drop can remain a threat on the map. He's going to pick that up and try to stick it in this little, you know, cavity on the map where basically ground units can't get under it to hit it. GuMiho is nearly maxed. Concussive Shells is about to finish. We've got a lot of Marines, Marauders, Medevacs, and tanks.
Oh my God, Tasis.
We do have Disruptors, so if he gets some incredible godlike shots off with that, maybe he can do something, but I'm really scared right now for Nightmare.
I didn't even realize this, but Nightmare doesn't have a Forge. He's on OO upgrades right now.
Oh, dude, I didn't realize that either. You're totally right.
He's just been so up against the ropes this entire time. He's in this position where if he builds 2 Forges, it tries to catch up on upgrades. He can't. He can't stand with the army of GuMiho, and so he's kind of trapped into this composition, and I think that's why he's now starting to lean really heavily in the Disruptors, is this is one unit where the upgrades truly don't matter. All right, GuMiho stepping forward. Disruptors, some of them off cooldown. No shots popping just yet. That went a little bit too far, not able to connect, and GuMiho now, effectively maxed, is ready to start attacking 2 different locations at once. And he is taking even more expansions, Tasteless.
Yeah, and this is where it becomes scary because it's not so much just about well, will the Protoss survive this next attack or two? The problem is also, what are you going to do about all these other bases Terran is taking? Because by then it might be too late.
I mean, GuMiho is starting +3 ground weapons at the same time that Nightmare is starting +1.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, Chrono Boost is good, but I don't... it's going to take a lot of Chrono Boost to catch up there as Nightmare.
Well, there's a point in time where the Terran army is so strong and the Protoss army is so weak, and Stim factored in with that. I mean, what exactly are you going to do?
Hey, even this fight that shouldn't be quite so disastrous for Nightmare just really isn't going well. These are +0 Colossi trying to hold on against very well upgraded Bio. And this Doom Drop coming into the main base. Luckily, Nightmare does have a handful of Stalkers over there, and he is playing this quite well, given how up against the ropes he is. But on GuMiho's side of things, the fact that he's throwing down even more command centers, he's getting sensor towers established, he is just creeping across the map with planetaries. I mean, 4 more CCs are in production right now, Tasteless. I feel like this is GuMiho just getting more ahead because he's having a hard time fighting a Protoss that is turtling on 4 bases. But as long as he prevents Nightmare from taking a 5th expansion and his economy balloons like this the way it is at home, I mean, barring some of the most miraculous disruptor shots of all time, I don't know how Nightmare fights back into this. And now he's throwing down 2 more Stargates and a Fleet Beacon. So I think Nightmare identifies his win condition is going to be trying to turtle for as long as humanly possible.
Go into those carriers. We saw it happen before. It's exactly how he beat GuMiho there. And GuMiho, you know, he's not really able to drop anywhere and make it work. I think that truly Nightmare has stabilized. It really is something impressive. Nice denial on that CC. Really getting value on that Zealot. Now, up here, this army, it seems like Protoss might have moved away from this, so he's going to come down. He's basically just confirming that there's no Nexus over here, that he doesn't have to worry about that, and that he's ahead in expansions.
Yeah, Oceanborn is one of these maps where if you fall behind like this, it is so difficult to actually secure a 5th base. And even being able to siege this gas, that hurts a lot for Nightmare. He's trying a 3 Stargate air transition.
Chrono boosted empty Stargate here too. I think this is going to get worse before, or even if it ever can get better here. Hitting this spot over here, this is real damage coming in. Oh my God, it doesn't connect.
That one does. Only gets 4 Marauders though, and Nightmare just doesn't really have the army composition that he can split across multiple bases. It's basically just Stalker Disruptor. There are some Zealots mixed in. And yeah, he is probably going to clean this up, but GuMiho getting the full scout. He's going to kill the 1 pylon powering these 3 Stargates.
Oh my God.
The low Artosis.
I know. Artosis just woke up in a cold sweat.
This army is going to get cleaned up. This is a very cost-inefficient trade for GuMiho. It's a desperately needed win for Nightmare, but I mean, is it even a win? It's like you play like a total war game. It's like you barely edge out the victory. It's like it's a Pyrrhic victory. Yeah, however you pronounce that word.
I don't know if he can stop the bleeding, to be honest. This has gotten so bad.
He lost every Stargate, Tasteless. He can no longer continue the Skytoss transition. He has to reinvest 900 resources to get those 3 Stargates out. And we're going up against a Terran who already knows that is your game plan, and he's maxed. And this is Nightmare just being like, all right, I'm done. Let's have one more battle. Even as he moves across the map, he's face-palming. Because this is really just a Hail Mary.
Okay, so, you know, he's going to try to come back across the map. But he's already lost control of what's happening back at home. Well, maybe not. It's just tanks. It's suddenly a StarCraft 1 TVP over here. He's going to come forward here. The SCVs are going to go down. Hey, it's something.
It is something.
And GuMiho's basically just drawing a line in the sand and say, oh, hold on. He says, oh, you're targeting too hard.
Oh, no.
Dude, that was crazy. He goes, wait a minute. Did you right-click on that command center? All right, I'm coming in. Now it's just Zealots and Stalkers. They're never going to last against the endless stream of Marines and Marauders coming out here.
Yeah, GuMiho has this one wrapped up. Nightmare. I think at this point, you're basically just kind of coming to terms with a loss.
GG.
GG is called, and GuMiho is going to be the last player to advance from Group C, joining his Terran friend ByuN into the round of 8.
It's a big day for the Terrans.
Well, they needed one.
They killed it. Nightmare played pretty well. I'd say he's kind of still in the same, at least in Korea here with GSL, still in the same position where he looks good. He can take games off, you know, the very best players. He cannot get close to taking a GSL. And I don't know if we're ever going to see him do it.
He's just always teetering on the edge of top 8. This is 3 GSLs in a row.
Yeah.
He got 3rd place in his group in the round of 16, and the fact that he's able to make it here is impressive, but it's a tough road.
GuMiho looking very impressive, looking very very GuMiho-esque, you know, with his unusual unit comps, a lot of crazy ideas. Didn't have any crazy mech games like we sometimes see from him. But we did see a lot of Cyclones.
There were a lot of Cyclones. Classic GuMiho right there. And Nightmare, I gotta say, he did play quite well this series.
Yeah, for sure.
He did lose 2-0, but I feel like every single season we're seeing him get a little bit better. It's just so hard to get the pieces. And, you know, maybe new patch comes out. Sometimes some players benefit from the new patch more than others. Maybe he'll be able to get a second win in the next season of GSL this year. But as it is right now, my heart does kind of break for him because this is the guy that's been grinding for so long. And he always comes so close to the top 8, but not able to get it. All right, we're going to go into an interview here with GuMiho, our winner. So that was a very tough series, especially Nightmare going for some different strategies, trying in Phoenixes, but you were able to overcome and advance to the quarterfinals. And GuMiho says, yeah, we had a lot of fights that were happening, but I was feeling confident in my play, and things just kind of went my way. So you made it into the winner's match. You fell down, went to the elimination match. You must have been disappointed. How are you feeling in the final match?
그리고 심지어 오늘은 제가 좀 상황이 좋았던 게임들이 있잖아요. 안 좋은 판단으로 지니까.
So I've always been defeated in ByuN, whether it be in international tournaments or in GSL, and the fact that it happened here again, I was pretty upset, and I was disappointed in myself. I really wanted to change that around. And honestly, I was a little bit pissed. So now they're asking, how do you feel about your TVP right now? GuMiho says his offline TVP win rate's better than his online. Something about being on stage certainly helps. And especially in online tournaments against Protoss players, I feel like I can lose really against anybody. But offline, I feel like many of my Protoss players kind of succumb to the pressure while I'm able to last through it. So in your TVP against Nightmare, you used a lot of Ravens. What's up with that? Well, I can't explain all the details about my build because it's very technical. Okay, GuMiho, you're smart, we get it. And I also wanted to do mechanic, play mech against Protoss. So I went for a bit of a mind game there with my composition. And I wanted to kind of play against my previous styles and do something different to throw my opponents off. So they're asking about how you feel about his quarterfinal matches, and they're talking about how advancing in second might actually be a boon here for GuMiho. And I think GuMiho is saying he wants to go to the semifinals to get revenge on someone. I didn't quite catch that. Oh, he's saying he wants to meet ByuN again in the playoffs, so they can't meet the round of 8. GuMiho says, thank you to the fans. Thank you for supporting me. My performance today wasn't good. Come on, GuMiho, you just advanced, man. You did great.
Total pro gamer answer. It's like, if I had to rate my performance, I'd give myself a D. It's like, well, I mean, you know, top 8 in GSL. All right, whatever.
ByuN did the same thing, man, and he advanced in first. Didn't even drop a map. He's like, yeah, it's an 8 out of 10, but 2 Terran players advancing from this group, and I gotta say, I mean, they played better than the Protoss for sure. Both Nightmare and Creator, it seemed like today wasn't really their day. The PvP was a really fun series, but both of them in TVP, it wasn't even feeling like they were, you know, making mistakes in terms of builds, but oftentimes just the control wasn't there, the presence on the map wasn't there, so certainly the better 2 players advancing from this group. Because now we look at the round of 8. Group A shaping up with Mario Classic and ByuN. That is the top-heavy group. Group B, Stats surprisingly advancing. Very happy for him. I think it's his first advancement to the top 8, and since before he got back from military, I think
so, yeah.
He will be joined by Shin and GuMiho, and then of course next week when we cast Group D, we will know who will join them in the top 8 among these 4 players right here.
All right, well, this is Group D, guys. Solar, Ryung, Cure, and Hero. You do not want to miss out on this one. I'm very interested in seeing how Hero is going to perform.
Yeah, I feel like there was this era where he was just by far the best Protoss player in the world. Now I think it has to be Max Pax. I mean, he's been on fire pretty much every tournament he plays in. Hero's kind of tapered off, but Solar and Cure have been looking so good recently. And Ryung is always one of those players that I think because he's such a veteran, and he doesn't always have the tip-top performance. Some players write him off, but this is a guy that could show up and have a really good day, and I wouldn't be surprised if he beat Solar, or he beat Cure, or he beat Hero.
Yeah, I think he's probably not getting out, but, you know, Ryung is still able to hang with the very best. Cure, again, he really scares me with how strong he's been looking as of late. Solar as well. But Hero, he's the guy I'm going to be watching for the most.
Absolutely.
And seeing how he performs.
But I'm pretty happy. We already have, what, I think it's 2 or 3 Terran in the top 8, 2 Protoss in the top 8, and 1 Zerg. So it's a pretty fun spread already, man. It's shaping up to be a really exciting playoffs.
Yes, it's good to be back here doing GSL. Again, sorry I had to miss last week. I was overseas. If you guys are going to come and check out the show, get tickets on that website down there. Should be in English. If not, if you're on Chrome, right-click, translate into English. You can't get in here without a ticket. We usually don't sell out this early in the tournament, but I know some of you guys that are watching might be coming in here weeks later. Buy your ticket early.
Yeah, and I've also seen some people online who are coming for the first time wondering how they get the headsets to actually listen to the
Front
cast.
desk.
Front desk, you'll trade your ID for the headset.
There's a van outside the building. There's a guy with a trench coat. You talk to him.
He opens it up. He's got all the different headsets.
Bring $500 in unmarked bills.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.